Mic check, please.
Check.
This. Sade, mic check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This is an election night update from Eyewitness News.
I stand before you as the Democratic nominee to be the next mayor of New York City.
Please vote for me. You will not be disappointed. I will fight for you, and I will deliver for you.
The people have rejected you before. They'll reject you again. It's me versus Zohran Mamdani, and the people will determine who the next mayor is.
So everything my opponent is going to do, he's either done before when he was in the assembly and voting against all of us, or he said he's going to do.
If she were elected, it's 4 more years of failed policies. Make no mistake, it's Murphy 2.0.
Well, the polls have just closed in New Jersey as we come on the air tonight. New York, you still have 1 hour to go. I'm Sade Better-NY.
And I'm Mike Marza. This is live special coverage, race results and analysis all night at ABC-7 NY.
And throughout the night, we're going to be here in the studio. We're going to talk to some of our reporters. But joining us now is Avery Harper to talk about this race. And Avery, what are you looking for tonight?
So I am looking for many things tonight, but in particular, I want to see how Democrats are able to do. This is their election to try and harness some of that anti-Trump sentiment and turn it into victory. They are trying to regain power in gubernatorial races, in Washington where they have very little. There are going to be lots of signs of things to come in these races tonight that we're going to be looking at for when we cover some of our midterm elections next year.
Let's talk about the New Jersey governor race, because this is a race that is being watched across the country, a potential indicator of what could happen next year in the midterms. And we already got a little bit of an indication on how voters felt about certain issues from some of the early exit polling from ABC News. And the top issue that voters were voting on, taxes. It goes again with the theme across the country, affordability. It's costing too much just to live. How does that, or who does that help more? Is that the Mikie Sherrill campaign or the Jack Ciattarelli campaign?
So, you know, actually, when you look at those exit polls and that preliminary exit poll data, the economy and taxes rank just about the same. So yes, it is all about affordability, and both candidates really did focus and emphasize that during their campaigns. So for Mikie Sherrill, of course, she talked about declaring a state of emergency to freeze some of the utility rates in the state. And we know that Jack Ciattarelli, he talked a lot about taxes, about tax relief for seniors and ways to make it more affordable for folks throughout the state of New Jersey. And so I think it remains to be seen exactly who that benefits, because it's something that both of them have emphasized throughout the campaign.
Certainly, and also the Trump factor in all of this. You know, first of all, Republicans have gained some advantage in the state of New Jersey. Democrats still outweigh Republicans by, I think, some 856,000 voters. But still, Trump is a piece of this.
Trump looms large over this election in New Jersey and all the elections that we're watching tonight. So yes, it is a state that shifted right in 2024, but it still does lean Democrat. I think it is important to note that Donald Trump did not come and campaign in the state of New Jersey in person, right? And I think that does reflect how polarizing a figure that he is in the state of New Jersey, that Jack Ciattarelli, while he does say that he is MAGA and he is in support of the president's policies, that might not have boded well for him with independent voters.
Yeah, and so
looks like we're just getting our first results in. If we can just pop that back up. I think there's about 3% of the precincts reporting at this point. Is that correct? Now it's actually up to 6%, with Sherrill getting 54% and Ciattarelli 45%. But the night is still young, only 6%.
And Avery, it's interesting, and Shadi, we were talking about this too. You have about 6 million voters registered in the state of New Jersey. 1 million voted early, and New Jersey had the capability to count those early votes. 5 days ago, they started that counting process. So perhaps this is what you're seeing now, is some of the early vote trickling in. So early to make an indicator or sort of weigh in on what to watch with these early results, with only 6% as they're being counted. But what are the areas that both campaigns are going to be focused on as the map starts to fill in with some of these numbers?
Right. I think it's going to be suburban areas. So the areas northern New Jersey and right outside of Philadelphia are going to be areas that could potentially swing in either direction. As far as the early vote and some of the numbers that we're seeing early in the night, that might be a little bit of a blue mirage. There has been a lot of political rhetoric around the idea of early voting or voting by mail. And so sometimes what we see is that Democrats tend to use those methods of voting more than Republicans, and election day vote is when we see lots of Republicans turn out. And so I would caution everybody to take their time and understand that it's going to be a long night before we know exactly what's happening here. Of
course, both campaigns watching this tick up and trying to see what's happening. There's such a marathon to get to this point, and we're seeing it all unfold right now, including the Mikie Sherrill campaign. Our Anthony Johnson has been with some of her supporters tonight. So Anthony, we're starting to get our first numbers. What is the reaction there as the anticipation builds tonight?
Yeah, about 30 seconds ago, there was a loud cheer that went through the ballroom here at the Hilton Hotel. People saw the numbers, and so they started to get excited early. This room is actually filling up pretty quickly tonight. Of course, the polls just closed in New Jersey at 8 o'clock, and everybody that is here is hoping that Mikie Sherrill will indeed be able to pull this off. Now, a little bit earlier, I had a chance to talk to Senator Cory Booker. He was in the room. He was talking to the media. He's feeling very buoyed by tonight. He says there's so many issues on the table. Yes, they're talking about affordability. Once again, they're watching more numbers as they're coming in. And so I expect throughout the night, as those numbers come in, and if they are in favor of Mikie Sherrill, you'll hear more cheering like that in this ballroom. But once again, we were talking to Cory Booker just a few moments ago, talking about some of the issues and why he thinks that Mikie Sherrill will be able to pull it off tonight.
They don't want Ciattarelli, who is somebody that says I'm 100% MAGA. We have enough lapdogs to the president. We don't need someone that's for him. We need someone for us, for New Jersey. And Mikie Sherrill's saying I'm going to stand up and be an independent voice for New Jersey. That is really paying off because we're hurting as a state. We're seeing our energy costs go up, our healthcare costs go up. We're seeing him attack major projects like the tunnel project here in New Jersey, and that's not what we need.
And of course, that was Senator Cory Booker talking about why he believes that Mikie Sherrill will be able to pull out a victory tonight.
Anthony, it's interesting as you watch these results come in. We were just talking to Avery about exactly what to watch and what the campaigns were focused on. And affordability and taxes was the number one, or the two issues that really came out in the exit polling. Are you hearing some positivity and just getting that message across the finish line with some of her supporters there tonight based on what they're hearing from some of the exit polling?
Yeah, Yeah, so far that is what the main issue is, and I think that was the main issue for both candidates, to try to get their message out there, how they would deal with the issue of affordability. One thing that happened this past summer, electric rates here in the state of New Jersey, they jumped. So that had an immediate impact on the pockets of so many people that live here in the state. So affordability, of course, is the number one issue, but always, in every campaign I've covered 20 plus years, there's always been the issue of property taxes in the state of New Jersey. So affordability, property taxes, the economy, those are the key issues that everybody has been talking about throughout this entire campaign, talking about it even today.
All right, Anthony Johnson in East Brunswick with the Sherrill campaign. We'll be checking in throughout the night. Anthony, thank you.
And now we actually want to go to Tony Yates, who's with the Ciattarelli campaign. And Tony, you are in Bridgewater right now, and you know, before it was just desolate behind you. I see people are just starting to come in. There was a long line outside.
Yeah, well, you know, it was really quiet in here. It's not as loud as it was where Anthony is right now, but it was until the clock struck 8 that the supporters started pouring in. But yes, there was a very long line outside. A lot of the supporters wearing their MAGA hats, they just started pouring in maybe about 5 minutes or so ago. We haven't heard any eruptions yet as far as numbers coming in or any boos as far as numbers are coming in, because people are just getting in. They're getting their drinks, they're getting their hors d'oeuvres, and they're settling in right now. Of course, we haven't seen the candidate Jack Ciattarelli yet. It is way too early in the evening for that, but he is expecting a lot of supporters to come out and support him, to show their support here in this ballroom. It's very important to him. Again, this is his third time running for governor of the state of New Jersey. His focus has been, it's time for change. And as Anthony said, you know, the top 3 issues for New Jersey voters for a long time has been taxes, taxes, and taxes. And each candidate has laid out their platform as to what they will do to make New Jersey more affordable. And Jack is hoping that his message rings true with more voters. One thing he did talk about on the campaign trail, too, is that he had support of at least 13 or 14 Democratic mayors. So he's hoping that what he's saying, what he's promising to voters, is swaying some Democrats and some independents to come to his side, too. So they are expecting victory tonight, of course, and the third time around, they're hoping that he gets the seat.
Okay, Tony Yates reporting at the Ciattarelli campaign in Bridgewater. Tony, thank you so much. We'll be checking back in with you in a bit.
All right, let's bring back in ABC News political director Avery Harper now. And, you know, Avery, when we look at these races, and it's interesting as is being watched across the country, you have 2 candidates really, in Jack Ciattarelli and Mikie Sherrill, both kind of trying to run down the middle. And that's an indicator of what New Jersey has become, right?
Right. I mean, there are folks who are looking to find some sort of moderate candidate. There are folks who are tired of the extremes, right? And so I think when you look at Mikie Sherrill in particular, she's very different than a Zohran Mamdani that we see right on the other side of the Hudson River running. She is trying to capture folks who might have voted for Trump last time and bring them back over into her tent. Jack Ciattarelli, the same way. He is trying to, while not trying to alienate some of the Republican voters who are across the Garden State, he is also trying to bring folks along with him, speaking about issues of affordability, issues that keep folks up at night, things like the cost of housing, property taxes, things that are real issues for everyday New Jerseyans.
You know, I also want to get in, Avery. I'm looking at some of the information that is coming in just through the polling, and they're talking about Trump administrations on immigration, that they've gone too far. Half of New Jerseyans say it's too much. How much do you think that this is going to play in this election? You know,
Actually, when we look at some of the exit poll data, we find that immigration and the issue of immigration lags far behind issues like property taxes and the economy. And so while I think it is an issue for some, and there are some folks, and usually that actually kind of skews in a partisan light, right? There are more Republicans who care about that issue than Democrats. I think it is less of an issue overall for New Jersey residents.
Almost about 1/5 of the vote counted so far, so we'll continue to have those results all night long. Avery, great to see you.
Good to see
Thank
you,
you,
too.
Avery.
Thank you.
And also, we've just got some new information in regards to Passaic County. In certain areas, their voting hours are being extended because of a bomb threat. Again, there are certain areas. We're going to keep an eye on that and give you the latest.
Yeah, and that was something that we saw some of the headlines earlier today, that other places also ran into those types of issues. And so we'll stay up to date with all of that happening tonight. And keep it right here at ABC-7 NY as we continue our streaming coverage and our conversation. Our colleagues Bill Ritter and Sandra will pick it up next as we watch these races and the votes being cast. They're also going to have a bunch of guests tonight.
That's right, and one of which is former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. So again, polls in New York close at 9 o'clock. You won't miss a beat here on ABC-7 NY.
For now, we take you to live election results as the votes are being tabulated. Keep it locked right here on ABC and Channel 7 all night long.
This is an election night update from Eyewitness News.
I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on serving the people of New Jersey.
There are moderate Democrats that have had it, and I've got 13 prominent, currently elected Democratic leaders around the state who've endorsed my candidacy.
You have a candidate worth being excited about. You got a future governor to be excited about in Mikie Sherrill.
Jack will do unbelievable. He will produce unbelievable results.
Right now, I'd certainly give the president an A. I think he's right about everything that he's doing.
Jack won't say one cross word about the president. Even when he froze Gateway Tunnel funding, Jack said that's not a New Jersey problem. On day one, I'm declaring a state of emergency on energy prices, freezing rate hikes.
We also have two other things that are driving the affordability crisis in New Jersey: housing. Another thing that's driving the affordability crisis is child care.
And good evening, everyone. We thank you for staying with us on this very important and big election night. I'm Bill Ritter.
And I'm Sandra Bookman. Polls still open in New York for about another half an hour. We're going to get to those races in just a bit. We are continuing our coverage right now on the key races in New Jersey, where the polls just closed about 30 minutes ago. Those key races, of course, the contentious and bitter battle for governor between Mikie Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli. We are seeing results now. Sherrill, 62% of the vote to Ciattarelli's 38%. We understand there's about 27% of votes have been tallied at this point in that race.
That's just not a lot so far, but right now, Sherrill is having 62%, as Sandra said, 38% for Ciattarelli. There's a long way to go, make no question about that. Look at this one, though. Jersey City Mayor, 39%. The top two results so far, James Solomon, 32%, and Jim McGreevey with 26%. And if his name is a little familiar, that's because once upon a time, until 2004, he was, in fact, the head of the state of New Jersey.
And that is a very crowded race. 7 people vying to be the mayor of Jersey City.
Right. All right, let's get right to it. We have our reporters in the field. We have a lot of people we're going to talk to. We're going to be with you for some time. I think you'll like it. I'm going to like being with Sandra, I'll tell you that much. New Jersey reporter Anthony Johnson. Make it Tony Yates. We're going to start with Tony Yates in Bridgewater with the latest on the Ciattarelli group. And I know that what you said earlier was, Tony, there are some people moved in, but right now, even though it's only 27%, he's not taking the lead yet.
Well, you know, the thing, too, is, and I'm not sure at this point, but Ciattarelli did really strongly in a lot of shore communities. I'm not sure if those votes have not come up for him yet, or if they're still waiting to see how those shore communities are going to produce for Ciattarelli tonight. We are here at the Bridgewater Marriott, and at the strike, when the clock struck 8, that's when all of the supporters started pouring in. So the ballroom is getting really full right now. There's still some more people outside waiting to come in. And, you know, Bill and Sandra, the one thing that I find odd this time, because we've covered a lot of elections, is there is no monitor here showing the results coming in. So you have people milling about, they're mingling, they're having their drinks, they're having conversations with people. Every once in a while you see somebody checking their phones, but there is no big board right now showing people how the vote is going in New Jersey at this point. So we haven't heard those hurrahs or those boos and things like that happening at this point. Of course, we have not seen Jack Ciattarelli yet because it is still way too early for him to be down here. But yeah, it's pouring in. We have a lot of MAGA supporters here. They're wearing their hats, they're wearing their red, and of course, you know, he's got strong support from President Trump, who did not come to the state, but he had maybe 2 tele-rallies with Jack Ciattarelli, one last night in Raritan. Jack is saying that it is time for change in New Jersey, and that is the message that he pushed as he was on his bus tour throughout the 21 counties here in New Jersey. Again, the shore communities really came out for him, so he's hoping that not only did they come to the rallies, that they early voted, or that they took their time to vote today to try to get his numbers up to bring home a victory.
To your point, Tony, there were some earlier numbers we saw earlier from Ocean County where Ciattarelli had a sizable lead. So it looks like that is what they were hoping for. And as Bill pointed out, we still have a long night to go, a lot of votes to be counted. So I guess both of the candidates are looking to see that they did well in the areas they expected to do well in.
Right. And I spoke to one of his campaign managers earlier, and we asked him, where are you guys going to be tomorrow? And he says, well, it depends, on the outcome. If it was a race like it was 4 years ago, then we're going to be chasing down, those ballots that weren't in or issues that may have come up. And so if something like that happens, and that's where we'll be. It's a victory, we'll be someplace else. So, they couldn't tell us at this point what the plans are for tomorrow. They're keeping it, up in the air until those votes come in and we find out who may be leading the state of New Jersey.
No question about that. Let me ask you a couple questions because you've been on the campaign trails. You talked to both the candidates. This one in particular, I got a couple questions for, and we have time because there's no commercials to this thing. We're just talking about information. So let's start with this. This is his third time to run for governor. You'd think that he would know. He's a businessman, a former assemblyman, but also a businessman. Why don't they put up a thing there? They should get the energy going for this crowd, or no energy. But why didn't they put that up? I wonder why.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that he thought that he would get some momentum riding on the coattails of President Trump, because now we see, President Trump implementing a lot of the things that he said he would do when he was campaigning. And, Jack Ciattarelli is seeing some of those things happening in New Jersey. And so that's why he, I think, married himself a little bit closer to the Trump administration. As we said, the president didn't come to New Jersey, but Jack Ciattarelli definitely reached out big time to the MAGA followers, but he also said that he went into minority communities. That's one thing he always talked about. He said, I went into the Hispanic community. He was saying that his opponent did not do that, and he thought that, he would get strong support from some of those communities, especially the Hispanic community.
Tony, I've got a quick question for you. You've been talking to voters. Look, you've been on the campaign trail with these candidates for the last few months, and you were talking to voters today. Some of the earlier exit polls that we saw from ABC News suggested that the same concerns that folks have here in New York City, they're almost identical to concerns for voters in Jersey City. They're talking about the economy. They're talking about taxes. Just what were you hearing from people today when they were talking with you outside of polling places about why they were voting for whoever they chose?
Well, you know what the thing is, both candidates, have platforms that sound similar. Their solutions, though, are what's different, because they're talking about making the state of New Jersey more affordable, lowering taxes. Now, of course, my colleague Anthony Johnson and I have been covering New Jersey politics for 20 plus years. That's always been on every candidate's platform, and no one seems to be able to come up with a solution to get that done, especially when it comes to property taxes, because when you start messing with property taxes, then of course you start messing with, how great the schools are going to be, because that's one thing New Jersey really boasts. Some of our schools are like the best in the nation. So, the promises are out there. It's getting it done. And who can get the voters to believe that their plan will be most effective? But like I said, the top three issues always for people in New Jersey has been taxes, taxes, taxes. And if you can do something about taxes, then you've already done something about making New Jersey more affordable.
Okay. One quick thing. Stay where you are. We want to come back to you several times. We do want to talk to someone who and you've covered plenty times, and that would be former governor and now current ABC News political contributor, Chris Christie. Governor, can you hear me? It's Bill Ritter along with Sandra Bookman. Can you hear us? Governor Christie, can you hear us? All right. There you go. You hear me?
Yeah, sure can. Good to see you both, Bill.
Chris, good to see you as well. You want to start?
Yeah. Yes, I will, Governor. You know what these candidates are thinking, feeling, worried about tonight. Just give it some idea. At this point, you've done all the campaigning. People are counting the votes. What are they doing at this minute as they wait for that final tally?
They're sitting with their families, their friends, and the supporters watching you and trying to listen to what they're getting from their war rooms in terms of vote as quickly as possible, coming in from all the different 21 counties. And they're trying to get a feel based upon what they see as to what is going to be their fate tonight. And I will tell you, election night is the worst night for a candidate because you no longer have any control. You just have to sit there and wait.
And you can't cry if you're going to lose either. That's for sure. Right now, I don't know if you can see this, but 28% expected vote in so far. Sherrill with 60% of the vote. Ciattarelli with 39%. We got a long way to go, but there is a little trend here. We'll see how that marks up. How well do you know each of these persons, Governor?
Very well. Congresswoman Sherrill was my congresswoman in my district in New Jersey. And Assemblyman Ciattarelli served in the Assembly my entire 8 years as governor.
Right.
So I know both of these folks personally and very well.
Okay, what do you think what happens, what the cause and effect is of Mr. Trump going in there? He didn't go there in person. He went there in a telephone call to 2 rallies. What has that done for him? It seems like, and I'm just a show, I'm just an old country reporter, but it seems when I've watched we did the debate with him and her, and when I've watched him talk about this stuff, it's kind of uneasy when he talks about Mr. Trump. He wants the Trump supporters to be there, but he doesn't want to be taken over by Mr. Trump. Is that accurate?
Look, I don't know what was going on in Jack's head, but I think we're going to look back on a key moment in this campaign, if Jack does not prevail tonight, was when he said, I think he's done everything right, referring to President Trump. President Trump is at least 12 points underwater in his favorability ratings here in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. He's never won the state in 3 times. And so he's not a popular political figure in this state. And so when Jack Ciattarelli decided to say, I think he's done everything right, I give him an A.
Okay. Let me just take one question.
Look, to win, and I've gone through 60% of unaffiliated voters in this state as a Republican. And it's hard to attract those unaffiliated voters when you're embracing a president who is that far underwater in the state.
There's a lot of conversation around this race.
Tonight, he may, but we haven't.
We are getting some different opinions from how your voice is doing here. Some of your Wi-Fi is not doing so well. Can you hear us now, Governor?
I can. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Good. All right, we'll start it. Go ahead.
So a lot of folks see this race, as well as the Virginia governor's race, as sort of like, a bellwether of what we might expect in the midterms. Give us your thoughts about that.
I think it's too early to tell on that, no matter what happens tonight in New Jersey, because, we're looking at a race in New Jersey that while Donald Trump influenced it, it was more influenced by the performance of the 2 candidates and by state issues like taxes, like electric rates and affordability. So I think, it's too early to tell. But obviously, if Jack Ciattarelli were to win tonight, Donald Trump will see that as a great lift for him and for the Republican Party. And if the opposite were to happen and Congresswoman Sherrill were to win, then I think that is a problem for the president because he's seen as a guy who just can't win in states like New Jersey.
If I'm looking at the numbers right, Governor, there's about 32% of MAGA is his support there. 32%, that's what it is. That's the highest it goes. How much, if you're Jack Ciattarelli, he once said, there's no way I want this guy to be president. Years ago, he said that. You remember that, 2016, 2017. What does it mean when all of a sudden he wants to be there, but he doesn't want it to be too much? Because, 32% of Trumps are MAGA, which is a lot for them, and that's not much left to go after that. So where does that stand, and how much will that hurt him and help Sherrill?
Well, look, authenticity is the most important thing in politics right now. There's no doubt about it. People want you to be authentic. If you've been all around the block on some of these issues, it hurts your credibility.
Yeah.
Now, we'll see how the voters feel about that with Jack tonight, but that's a problem. And you put your finger on it, Bill, because you've been watching this as long as I've been watching it. In 2016, Jack Ciattarelli was very anti-Trump, and now he's not.
Really, and then really quick, because I know ABC wants to get you back, I have one quick question. there was a huge thing that happened when you welcomed the President of the United States, Mr. Obama, into New Jersey after Sandy, and you were gunned down politically by some of the people in your party saying, "Why are you doing that with this guy?" And we haven't seen such a thing like that with two men like that in different parties with what you did. Do you look back on that and remember it?
I will remember it very well, and I have said around the country in the years since then that I was the last of national bipartisanship in our politics in the last 13 years. And part of the reason why it was the last act was because you're right. I had a number of Republicans got angry with me because I did my job.
Yep.
I represented all the people of New Jersey in our very worst moment, the second worst natural disaster in American history. You know, people don't remember maybe, but 346,000 homes destroyed in 24 hours. I know you remember, Bill.
Yep.
The fact is,
Sandra was there too.
did
She
my
remembers
job.
that. Yep, you did, and it's something that we
Look,
all
Sandra
remember.
too. I did my job, and Bill, I would do the same thing. And I hope that someday we get back to putting the people ahead of what color uniform we're wearing.
Hear, hear, sir.
That
Hear,
is
hear.
the question, is it not? Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, ABC News consultant, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is always interesting to get your take on things.
Thank you, sir. All right. Look at the list before we go here. We got, all right, well, it's now 60-40 and about a 28% vote title so far, and we're still waiting. So it's going to be a little time, I think, in the next few hours. Yeah. Good. We have new details, by the way, of the extended polling hours in Passaic County, New Jersey. A judge has now ordered 3 schools, 2 in Patterson and 1 in Passaic, to remain open for voting from 8 p.m. instead now to 9 p.m. And that was because of a bomb threat this morning. You probably heard it on our news. The judge says the fair thing to do is to give residents in the wards extended opportunity to vote. Good for him or her. Anyone standing in line at 9 p.m. will be permitted to cast their ballot. So that's news that just happened tonight.
So in addition to the New Jersey governor's race, there are some other key races underway tonight in New Jersey. Chief among them, the race for Jersey City mayor.
This race to fill the seat of longtime Mayor Steve Fulop, who had been running, you'll recall, the state's second largest city since 2013. This is truly the end of an era, political era. There's a familiar name on the ticket, the man right there on the right, one Mr. Jim McGreevey.
Darla, standing by at Mr. McGreevey's headquarters tonight in Jersey City. Darla, you have been talking to voters all day long. What are you hearing? What are they excited about in this race?
Well, you know, the big thing here in Jersey City is affordability, balancing the luxury developments with affordable housing. And that really seems to be the touch point for voters. And whoever the next mayor of New Jersey, who Jersey City will be, that is going to be a key factor that they're looking for in their next mayor, because as you know there are a lot of high-rise developments here in Jersey City, lots of people who commute to New York City and work every day, but then you have longtime residents, people in affordable housing, people in housing that have homes that have been passed down from generation and generation, and then you see that they are being priced out of their properties because their property taxes are being increased, they're being raised because it's not balanced with the luxury development. So that is really going to be a key issue for whomever is elected the next mayor of Jersey City. You've got to balance, you've got to be able to deal with the developers, but you also have to respond to the needs of the people here in Jersey City. But this is a crowded field, as you mentioned, Bill. There are 7 candidates running for office, and that is because, as you mentioned, Stephen Fulop declined not to seek a 4th term. He ran for the Democratic nomination to become New Jersey governor. That bid failed, and now he's moving into the private sector. And so on top of Jim McGreevey, you have 6 other candidates. Some are elected officials, some are private citizens, and you see a lot of people becoming engaged in this process with some non-traditional candidates. You have The Hudson County Commissioner, who has been in his seat for 27 years, Bill O'Day, has been commissioner in Hudson County for 8 terms. He is now seeking to become the next mayor of Jersey City. You have 2 members of the city council. Joyce Waterman is the city council president. She's been a member for 12 years. She says she is focusing on sustainability and affordability. And you also have James Solomon. He is also a member of the city council. He has 2 young children who attend school here in Jersey City. So one of his platform issues is education. Then you have Musab Ali. He is the former president of the Jersey City Board of Education, and he was actually the youngest person in the history of New Jersey to be elected to that seat. He was only 20 years old at the time, a graduate of Harvard Law, former Jersey City Board of Education President Musab Ali, also vying for this seat today. And then you have a Jersey City police officer, Christina Freeman. She's only been on the job for 6 years, but she says she has been on the ground so much, responding to calls, responding to the needs of Jersey City residents, that she really could be that voice for them in City Hall. And then you have Kalki Jane Rose. He is a founder and investor who works in startups, another non-traditional candidate, all seeking to become the mayor here in Jersey City. But again, with such a crowded field, you need to secure 50% of the vote to become the next mayor. So lots are expecting a runoff in this race just because the field is so crowded, and Jersey City voters may have to go to the polls one more time if there is a runoff in this race for the next mayor of Jersey City.
Yeah, that's a really good point. No question about that. It is an unusual thing, but I will say this: we're listening to you talk, and who each of the people who are on that screen, the 7 people. I couldn't help but think of so much of what you were talking about were also the important facts and reasons people were worried about New York City as well. This whole thing about affordable housing is not just a New York City thing, it is a small town thing as well.
Yeah, that's right, Bill. It's affordability, it's taxes, it's education. And what candidates will have to do across the board is see if they are the person to really cut through the noise and connect with voters, because voters are engaged in this election. As we know, 1.3 million New Jersey voters across the state already voted. By Sunday, they voted either by mail-in ballot or they voted for early voting. So lots of people are engaged in the process. And this should actually give Jersey City voters some ease that so many people are coming forward to step up to be the next mayor and possibly become the next mayor here in Jersey City if there is a runoff in this race. But I want to point out something else. Just like Tony said, there are no screens. There are no monitors in this room. I just want to give you a quick look because we haven't done that yet. I want to give you a quick look. Take a look where it is so packed. So McGreevey has a lot of supporters here. He has a lot of volunteers here. Campaign volunteers literally came from the campaign trail. They came in the orange T-shirts, came right here to support and to watch what the results are going to be. That's just one side of the room, Bill and Sandra. There's another side of the room over here that is equally packed. Jim McGreevey has not yet arrived. I would imagine, just like we heard Chris Christie say, everyone's sitting down watching the election returns, wanting to know what's going to happen. So right now it's still very early on in the race, and it's still an early night here at the McGreevey campaign watch party for the Jersey City mayor's race tonight.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Darla. We will definitely be hearing from you again this evening. We're going to head back to some new results on the Jersey City race, of course, the marquee race tonight in New Jersey.
32% expected to vote in right now. The numbers have gone a little closer. It's still pretty large, but it has been brought closer in this. Sherrill with 59%, Ciattarelli with 41%. Long way to go on this big. Only the second thing in the country, right? Only one time, and we've already know that woman has won, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, they called the race there.
Yeah, they called the race there earlier. But this is interesting.
So Bill is not my only companion in the studio tonight. We have 2 very distinguished guests with us. To my left is a former New York City councilman, James Vaca. So nice to see you. Good to be back.
Former councilman.
He's in higher education now, a higher calling, I guess.
Yes, thank you.
And also with us, a woman that we have fallen in love here because she calls it just like she sees it, Jennifer Jones Austin. She is head of the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good to be here.
Go ahead. You want to start the question?
I'm going to let you start.
I don't know who to talk
Before
to.
beauty.
I will go this way. How's that? You heard that. It was interesting, I thought, that all of a sudden the same things in a little teeny town in New Jersey, the same issues really in New York as well. You're dealing with things in New York all the time.
All the time. Well, affordability is a challenge across the nation. My organization commissioned the Urban Institute, which is a national research and policy organization, to create the first ever true cost of economic security measure. We have an official poverty measure that says that a family of four living anywhere in America, 2 adults, 2 children, needs just $32,150 to not be poor. You can't get by as a family of four on $32,150 in New Jersey, in Virginia, in New York City. The measure actually says that here in New York, 62% of families are not living economically secure. It says that 72% of families with children are not economically secure. 91% of single-parent households are not economically secure. What that means is that they can't afford their housing, their child care, their health care, and then they can't afford, on top of that, to save for their children's future, retirement, pay down debt. Affordability is a problem everywhere, and that's what's on the ballot here and across the nation.
Impact? What is the impact of that after that?
The impact of that is special. Well, let's just even think about the context, the situation that we're in right now. When you have people who are struggling to make ends meet, and you've got a president who's pulling SNAP benefits, pulling Medicaid. You know, the threat is on the table to get rid of Affordable Care Act premium enhanced subsidies for people making 400% of poverty, a family of four making $160,000. People feel that. And so they want somebody who's going to fight back.
And James, as you listen to what she said and think about this race, the incredible turnout we've seen both in early voting and even today, this is what people are responding to, those concerns, correct? And did you hear in any of the people running, well, they all have plans, but New Yorkers, I'm thinking, heard something they needed to hear, and that brought them out to the polls today?
Well, I think New Yorkers will feel better if they see something that they'd like to see.
Okay.
We've been hearing for years that these problems were going to be addressed, and so far they're not. From my perspective, as a professor at Queens College, I have students who can't pay tuition. And who drop courses or take a term or two off and sometimes never return. I'm a supermarket shopper. I'm in the supermarket constantly. The prices are unbearable. Yeah. And if you live in the Bronx or in poorer neighborhoods, the prices are even more unbearable. I think that we have to do something about the cost of living and the high rate of taxation. Many of us, back to when I was in the council, said that we had to do something. It's not right that we have situations where electricity rates and heating rates go up and up every year. They never come down. Taxes always go up. They don't come down. People see supermarket prices. If you don't get a sale, they go higher and higher, and then when the sale is over, they go back to where they were. So there doesn't seem to be relief for the working person, for the college student, for the senior citizen on fixed income. And until there's that relief, people will feel frustrated and mad, and people are angry because this has been going on so long, and rather than getting better, it's getting worse.
And if I may quickly add, here in New York City, for people who make less wages, on the lower side of wages with respect to income, they don't have a lot of assets that help them to, weather these economic storms. But also, here in New York City, unlike other parts of the nation, wages for low-income people have not risen in the last 6 to 7 to 8 years. So prices are going up, but wages are not.
Yeah, and that's every.
How are people expected to feel when they see their government shut down and everybody blaming everyone else? But the reality is, federal employees are not getting paid. You cannot reach a federal agency on the telephone. So people are not really assessing blame here and there. Right. People are just saying, what is happening to us here?
We have 2.5 minutes until polls close in New York, and we're going to be interested in that. We're going to not talk so much about each person that's running for office, but I do want to talk about something bigger, and that is you both mentioned who is doing this? How can we make it better? How do we level the playing fields? It seems to me that we have 1,200 people who are super rich in this country, and 20 years ago, there were about 40 or 50 of those people. So what happens? They don't pay the taxes. Everyone here, no matter what they make, is in a W-2 situation, right? But they're not. So how do you deal with it? How do you level the playing field with this? Because the people who are running for office in New York are dealing with this very, very thing right now.
Well, I think one thing that several of the candidates raised, specifically Mr. Mamdani raised it, but I think others, and Kathy Hochul has raised it, is that the cost of daycare has got to be looked at, and we have to try to help people who need daycare. Daycare is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And how do we help the working parent who is working 2 jobs already, maybe going to college at night, helping an elderly parent and being a caretaker? Daycare is something that we have to look at. If we can take that out of the equation, if we can help people in that regard, I think that that's significant. That's something significant.
So I agree with you. I just think that we have to be very careful when we hear candidates talking about universal child care. One of the things that we have to appreciate is that if everybody gets $20,000 for child care for one child, or 2 or 3 children, they get, what is that, 60,000, right? If they get that, those who already have wealth now have more discretionary income. And what that can do is actually cause prices to go up. It can actually increase the wealth gap. And so they have to be very smart and thoughtful about it. Maybe it's targeted universal child care. The other thing that we need to look at is how we ensure that people have, when we look at earned income tax credits, giving people the money when they need it, not like down the road, when you look back. Make sure people have money for gas when they need it. Make sure people have money for food when they need it.
I also think that targeted daycare, Jennifer's correct. I think that we have to look at after-school programs and make sure 1/3 of our kids in the city of New York are in homeless shelters. So when we send them home, we're sending them to no-parent families. We're sending them to a shelter where they should be engaged until 6 o'clock at night in their neighborhood school.
We're going to continue this throughout the night, I promise.
Yeah, this conversation is important. We will continue it. But we are just getting started here on ABC7 NY. Results trickling in as we continue on this election night.
And it's now closed. We're at 9 o'clock and 10 seconds. We are gone from everything. It's 9 o'clock. We'll be right back.
This is an election night update from Eyewitness News.
Freezing the rent for rent-stabilized tenants, making buses fast and free, delivering universal child care.
This kid is going to deal with Donald Trump? I don't think so.
The only party to stand up to this nonsense is our Republican Party.
I'm going to be a mayor not just for those who vote for me, but for anyone who calls the city home.
Start with public safety because that is the base. You can talk about affordability and education and everything else, but safety first.
What candidate is in the subways every day and on the buses and the express buses and in the streets and in neighborhoods where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill? Who can match my credibility?
And welcome back, everyone. I'm Bill Ritter, along with Sandra Bookman. The polls have just closed in New York, correct?
Yep, more than 2 million people have voted in New York City's mayoral race, the most in a mayoral election since 1969.
Can you imagine that? We're also covering New Jersey's race for governor in this live special election coverage of ABC7 NY. We're glad you're with us. We're going to begin with New York. We have a team of reporters monitoring each of the New York City mayoral candidates.
Yep, and we are going to start with NJ Burkett, who's live at Zohran Mamdani's campaign headquarters in downtown Brooklyn. NJ?
Yeah, Sandra, the music is pumping. It's a little difficult to hear you. The music's pumping, and the people are beginning to pour into the Paramount Theater here in downtown Brooklyn. The line out the door goes for half a block, and people have been waiting now literally for 2 to 3 hours to get inside. But yes, they're hoping that this is going to be a victory party for Zohran Mamdani, and given the way the polls played out, certainly in the last couple of months, they have reason to be optimistic. But again, the polls are just closing now, so, it may be a little while before we know for sure exactly how this is playing out. Sandra?
Rich and Jennifer?
Okay. We were doing some logistical concerns here, NJ. Let me ask you a couple quick questions. You've watched this.
Sure.
You've seen it. You saw what happened today. We're going to get people talking about this everywhere. You have the President of the United States, the last day of this whole thing, all of a sudden says, I'm going to endorse Mr. Cuomo. Mr. Musk says that as well. Did that hurt him now that the time is over? We can talk whatever you want about what's going on there because the polls are now closed. What does this mean for Mr. Cuomo? And did it hurt him having this endorsement so far?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Bill. It's a question that they're going to be asking for a long time. I mean, as you know, Donald Trump is broadly unpopular in New York, a city that is overwhelmingly Democratic. I think that if there was some strategy in there with Mr. Trump, they were hoping to try to get Republicans and sort of give them permission, as it were, to switch their vote from the Republican candidate to the independent candidate, Andrew Cuomo. Now, if people are on the fence about it and they're at all, democratically minded, then perhaps this is going to hurt Cuomo because maybe they hate Donald Trump more than they're worried about Mamdani. So the way I see it, I think it probably hurt Cuomo more than it helped him, Bill.
There's a part of, I've heard people discussing maybe this was part of the strategy to begin with. I mean, it appears that Republicans are going to make Mr. Mamdani the poster boy if he wins this election. They're going to be telling their supporters, the rest of the country, this is exactly what you don't want to happen where you are, so you need to go with us. It sounds almost like a strategy.
That's right.
Yeah, and before you go on that, NJ, let me just tell you, hang on, let me just tell you these numbers. 36% of the vote in the first swag already, 52% for Mamdani, 40% for Andrew Cuomo, 8% for Sliwa, 1% for all the other write-ins, and all the other people just didn't get much at all. But this is at 36%, the first one. What's your instincts on this?
Yeah, and if it plays out this way, that tells you that a lot of people did switch their votes from Sliwa to Cuomo, which is clearly, as we were talking before about the president, that's probably a strategy if that's what he was thinking. But Sandra brings up a very good point, and it's certainly arguable that the strategy might have been to help Mamdani because President Trump, perhaps, and the Republicans want to make Mamdani the new face of the Democratic primary, a Democratic Party going into the midterm elections and then obviously into the presidential election 2 years after that. And if they can do that, if they can establish a Democratic socialist punching bag in the media capital of America, perhaps that would benefit the Republicans. And I think Sandra brings up a very good point.
No question. So what's the take there at headquarters? What's the mood there? Do they have any kind of a picture they're looking at? Looks like they're behind you.
What they're looking at are the initial results, the results that you and Sandra are reporting right now. And look, I mean, you make your way through the room and people are feeling pretty good. They're cautiously optimistic, more optimistic than cautious, because frankly, we know what the polls have said now literally for months. I mean, Mamdani won the primary, beating Cuomo by 13 percentage points, essentially coming from behind. Now, Cuomo said over and over again, and I asked him these questions on the campaign trail, look at the polls. What do the polls tell you? He said, I don't believe the polls. He said, I think we're surging. And he could say, well, I don't believe the polls, but, and he'll say, look at the primary election. Look at what happened. It flipped around. But what he doesn't acknowledge is that Mamdani, toward the end of the primary race, was surging. You saw that trend line going up. And we have not seen that at all in this election, the general election. I mean, Mamdani won the primary and essentially has never looked back, Bill.
Yeah, good question.
All right, NJ Burkett, we're not done with you. We'll see you a little bit later tonight. We do now want to talk with Lauren Glassberg. She is at Andrew Cuomo's campaign headquarters in Midtown. Lauren, what is the mood there? Polls closed 7 minutes ago.
Yeah, polls closed 7 minutes ago. We did see on the big screens behind us a couple of minutes ago the first indicators of how this race is going, and it did not look promising for Andrew Cuomo. And I can tell you that the supporters here behind me, who started filling in about 30 minutes ago at the Ziegfeld Ballroom, they almost didn't even notice those big screens and the some 11 or 12 points that separates Cuomo and Mamdani in those early results. So I would say the mood here is more tempered. Certainly they're not lining up to try to get in here around the block. People started coming about a half hour ago. The room is not full. I spoke to some of the early supporters who arrived, and they described their mood as cautiously optimistic, tense, and one person said, I believe he's going to win. I know he can do it. So they are varied in their positions, but if they saw those initial numbers, they certainly weren't reacting. Obviously, Cuomo had a lot of ground to cover. Most of those polls showed him at double digits behind Zohran Mamdani all the way through the race, and that is a lot of ground to make up. I know you were just talking with NJ about Donald Trump sort of endorsing Cuomo in the last 24 hours and whether that would negatively impact Cuomo or if it would perhaps benefit him. And I think at the end of the day, for Cuomo to win this race, he needed to get votes everywhere. From Republicans, from moderates. He needed to steal back some of the young voters who were following Mamdani. And I'm not sure he'd be able to pull that out this far along in the race with Mamdani captivating so many young people and having that momentum for so much of the race after that primary.
Yes, no question. But it's always been interesting to say what the Trump question is going to be about, because he's already decided and already said he's going to take money away from New Yorkers if Cuomo doesn't get this. And, you know, he doesn't like to lose, Mr. Trump, right? You know this. You've covered him for a long time. He doesn't like to lose. And all of a sudden, if he does something that's going to show that he lost this, that's not as good for his head as it is not ever doing this, not saying I'm going to go with Cuomo.
Well, let's be clear. He posted a couple of comments to social media. He didn't come here and campaign for Cuomo.
It's true,
he put
yes.
it out in the ether. He wasn't as invested in this campaign as perhaps in some of the other campaigns that are happening around the country right now. And certainly he's a former New Yorker, but he did have some very divisive words saying that if Mamdani were elected, it would be socially and economically terrible for New York City, and that socialism, this is something that he aligns with Cuomo on. They both say socialism would not work for New York City. So whether Cuomo is in cahoots with Trump on being endorsed by him, wanting his endorsement or not, they both agree that socialism shouldn't be here. And of course, Mamdani is a democratic socialist.
Go.
Lauren Glassberg, Andrew Cuomo headquarters in Midtown. We will hear from you as well shortly.
Thanks, Lauren. Right now, let's go to Stefan Kim at Curtis Sliwa headquarters on the Upper West Side. Sir, you saw the numbers. It's very noisy there, but you saw the numbers. He's not doing very well, 8%. That's far lower than he ever did in any of the polls.
Well, look, Bill, the mood here is a lot more jubilant than the one Lauren is describing at the Cuomo campaign, because, look, they saw the numbers that you announced over the air. They know what is happening. You can actually hear the music right now. Moments before that we came on, they had a song in the background with the lyrics saying, fight, fight, fight. Because, look, let's be honest here. Nobody in this room is expecting him to win this race. This is a city, as we know, that has 6 times as many registered Democratic voters than Republican voters, but that doesn't mean they won't be looking at how these numbers are going to play out tonight. The question is Curtis Sliwa's candidacy a spoiler candidacy or a stronger candidacy than we all expected, or maybe a little bit of both? He's been under immense pressure, as we've been reporting, to drop out of this race, but he has been campaigning hard until the very end. Bill?
It's very interesting because what you said about him. Today, he said during one of his little speeches in front of our cameras, and he said, you know what? Everyone can laugh at everything else, but when the night falls here, I'm going to be the next mayor of New York. And he said it with all this cockiness that was, you know, sort of so like Mr. Sliwa, right? That's the way he operates. I don't know if he really felt it or not, but he certainly felt like he sounded like it, and that was kind of interesting, I thought, Stefan.
Well, Bill, you can't say anything else, right? As a candidate running for office, you have to project strength. You have to say that you're going to win this. You're in it to win it. He doesn't really have any other choice, but let's be real here. The mood is jubilant because they're looking at the same numbers that we are, and their expectation is different after all, right? They're cheering right now for Curtis Sliwa. We're hearing that he'll be in the room moments from now. Former Governor George Pataki is in the room. So they have a point to prove. This is a campaign run on principles. He has made the point that it is not incumbent on him to drop out of this race. He has said time and time again that the problems that the Democratic Party are facing, those are the Democratic Party's problems, not his. He's also said that you can't just assume just because he drops out that all of his votes just automatically transfer to Andrew Cuomo. And he will also tell you that it is not on him to drop out, but rather to Andrew Cuomo to win Curtis Sliwa votes. So that's Curtis Sliwa that we have known for decades now, and as I said, up until this very last day, he's been campaigning hard.
You're right. He is true to himself, Curtis Sliwa, and I think a lot of other folks would say
there's no question.
It's not their job to figure out the Democratic Party's problems. Stefan Kim, Curtis Sliwa headquarters tonight on the Upper West Side. I expect we will hear from you later this evening as well.
Question.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead. You want to do it? Okay. Our next guest. First of all, as we look, there's 38% so far. The votes counted. 51% for Mamdani. Mr. Cuomo has 40%. Curtis Sliwa 8% and 1% write-ins. And who knows? It could have been our next guest that got written up. Jim Walden, former candidate, an independent candidate for New York City mayor. You were listening to all that.
I did.
And what's your take on all this?
Well, first of all, it's so fascinating. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, it's great to see you here.
These results don't surprise me at all because remember, this is the early voting. And everybody knew that Mamdani supporters really went out hard in the early voting stages. So there were about 780,000 votes. If you looked at the numbers, there's about 780 something there. So that doesn't surprise me. I don't think that necessarily says the trajectory. The thing that concerns me is what I've been saying since July, right? As long as the vote was split between the non-Mamdani candidates, that it was more likely that Mamdani would go into City Hall with less than 50%.
But he's got 52 right there. 51.
Well, he's 52 right now, but in the early voting, and I think it's going to be bad for Sliwa in the long term if it turns out that he's the spoiler, that the margin of error really was him, because he can say whatever he wants. He's a very confident guy, very strong personality. We can debate his relative competence, but putting that aside, he's been saying the same thing. He hasn't moved in the polls. Right. His average is around 16%. I had predicted that he was going to top out at 14. We'll see if that prediction comes true. So it's for those people that think that Mamdani is a real threat to the city, it's a terrifying night.
You know, there are a lot of young people are going to the polls because the idea is we need a change. We were talking to our guest earlier, just talking about the fact that the economy, almost anywhere you go in the country, the economy, whether it's taxes, the price of eggs, the economy is what they're concerned about. Do you really expect that if Mr. Mamdani is elected tonight, we are going to see a sea change in how things are actually done in the city? Yes, he has great ideas and things that I think most of us probably say, well, you know, that may be a good idea. Mm-hmm. How do you make that happen? It's like moving the Titanic.
You couldn't, I mean, he's going to face a very hard reality that all these promises that he made that he can't really fund and that he doesn't have the power to do are going to be very, very difficult to deliver. And that is going to make people very unhappy if he made all of these promises and he can't deliver them. There's additional problems, though, that he never addressed, right? We've got billions of dollars of deficits coming, according to 3 independent studies. Next year is going to be about $5 billion, and it just goes up for the next 3 years based on new liabilities that are going to come due. So he's already starting from way behind the starting line. And then if it turns out that there's significant capital flight after he takes over because businesses are scared of what's going to happen in the city, it's just going to make the tax base more fraught and more difficult to pay for what we have.
Well, I think that's a big point and a smart point. You're a businessman, right?
Yeah.
So yes, so that sounds like a businessman, and we got to figure out how to do that. Let me offer this. He's 34 years old. He's not 24 like he was when he may have said some of the things that he wishes he hadn't said.
But he's really talking about the promises he made specifically.
Well, I understand that, but
trail.
if he can't do it, he can't do it, right? What's going to happen if he does win? Or even if Mr. Cuomo wins, which he's got a ways to go, but he's now at 9%. This is a battle with Mr. Trump.
It is a battle.
Yes, no matter whether Mr. Cuomo is there or not, it's with Mr. Trump. And is he able to bring in what he can to fight this and to say, you know what, I am now 34. I have apologized for other things I've done. What are we going to do to make this city great again? And how do we deal with that? And how are we going to prevent all the things that Mr. Trump has already cut back, and it says he's going to cut back even more?
Yeah. So I think that actually of all the candidates, Curtis Sliwa had this answer the most right, and it was consistent with Jack Ciattarelli, what he said about Trump in New Jersey, which is, listen, it's the art of the deal, right? There's a lot that Trump wants that would be positive for the city in terms of cooperating with Washington on development. We obviously need to stop him when it comes to these ICE raids that are tearing families apart. That nobody in New York wants that. So I think the best answer to this, but Mamdani's not going to be the person that's going to be able to do it, is to collaborate with Trump on places that are consistent with New York values and go to court and fight him in places, as other states and cities have done, in places where there's illegality or unconstitutional action, which obviously the president has taken some of that already. So that kind of balanced approach is the right approach, but Mamdani is so polarizing and made Trump more than he needed to, frankly, because I think that New Yorkers are more concerned about their pocketbooks, their rents, the safety of the streets, than they are about having an open warfare with Washington. Mamdani has put himself in a real box because, I mean, Trump was always going to come after him as a socialist or Trump as a communist. But if Mamdani had been smart and reached out to Washington after the Democratic primary and asked to sit down with the president, Mr. Mamdani is a very charming person. He's charmed the pants off so many people.
And he's very smart.
He's a very smart person, and he knew he was going to have to moderate. In my view, he didn't moderate enough, and he couldn't bring people like Barack Obama and Chuck Schumer and Gregory Meeks, the chairman of the Queen's Party, congressman. He couldn't bring them into the fold because he is too rigid in terms of his key issues.
But you hear folks say when you're running, a lot of times you don't govern the way you campaign. That's true. Right? So you have to, if he's elected, you sort of have to give him that same grace. So I would ask you as a businessman, if he is elected, you talked about the concern that perhaps businesses would just back up and say, but it is their city too. So don't you have to figure out a way to make this work? Because we all lose if he doesn't succeed.
100%. And listen, I've been a real Mamdani critic the whole time, but I'm going to be part of the loyal opposition when he is there. We have to help as much as we can. We have to do as much as we can to try to encourage him to moderate his policies, to make them more business, to make some of his changes incremental and not try to make radical change.
Won't the job do that too?
I hope so.
Yeah, I just think it's a heavy lift.
I hope so.
There's no question about it. And by the way, if we throw the numbers up there, right, one more time, this is not over yet, right? This is still going a ways. If we can see those numbers, is that possible? Anyway, we know they're 9% behind right now.
9%.
Right,
okay.
which is different than 16%.
Right.
Still 9% with 43%. So that it looks like that is in that status for Mr. Mamdani, but
Sliwa hasn't gone up,
and he might not. But we don't know. We don't know what's happening. I do think, though, that if this is going to be some sort of a war with Mr. Trump, and it already has, he wants to also, and you know this, you're a businessman. He also wants, and we've already seen him do this, get some of his friends to be in these projects that they want to make for New York. Right. We look at one of the things they're doing in Midtown right now, right? And all of a sudden, that's someone who knows him. Right. So how do you deal with that? How do you pull that out?
So I'm not actually sure how it is Mamdani do it, or how does anyone do it?
Anyone do that.
Well, in terms of, listen, there's been a lot of scrutiny on developers and business people. I mean, I'm a business person, but I'm a lawyer, so I'm a little bit removed from that. Certainly not a billionaire. But there's been a lot of real hate thrown at our business community, not just from Mamdani, but from people like Curtis Sliwa. It's not sustainable, right? So the way that you bring it, the way that where everyone wins is to bring the business community together with some of the problems with our social safety net and come up with programs that really help people. I'll give you an example. Bill Ackman, one of the people that's been vilified every single time you open the paper and there's something about billionaires. Bill Ackman's one, Bill Ackman came up with a policy that no one ever even noticed that was called birthright. And it set aside a certain amount of money for every single kid in the nation born in poverty. And I looked at that during my race and realized that the amount of money that we would need to make a substantial investment in our impoverished kids is not that great and can be funded with a really small microtax on a whole bunch of different things.
Why didn't you run for mayor?
I tried that. But listen, these are the kinds of things that I hope that whoever wins, whether it's Cuomo, whether it's Mamdani, that there's an open line of communication.
Yeah.
Because there are really great policies that can bring everyone back to the center. Part of the problem is that the extremes are pulling the center apart. And we have to rebuild the center if we want everyone to win.
Won't he have to do this if he wins? Won't he have to do it anyway? Because he's going to have reach out. And in fact, this is one big pot that
well,
we
you're
have
successful if you build, or the most successful politicians I've seen wherever I've lived have been those people that were able to build a coalition. Now, generally that coalition exists sort of before they get in the office, but in this case, there are people, it sounds like he's going to have to convince to be part of the change that he wants to bring. To that end, what question I had for you is that he energized so many young people.
Amazing. It really was amazing.
How do you reward that?
Inspiring.
How do you reward that?
Well, to reward it, but also, because when you're young, you want everything free. At least I did, because my parents were paying. But seriously,
then, baby.
once you get in there, you realize how hard the work is. And I think that will happen with some of the people that were energized by, but you'll realize it's not as easy to do as you kind of thought before you started trying to do it. How do you take advantage of all those people, young people that are now, they are locked in, they want to be part of that change, and keep them there?
Before you do this, can I ask you to stay with us?
Sure.
Because we got some breaking news happening.
Yeah.
We are told that Curtis Sliwa is on stage, and sure enough, our people in the booth saying he's there. So let's just see if he's okay. We don't have him here, but we can talk to you, sir, and still talk about it.
He doesn't look happy.
Well, I don't know. We don't hear him. Do we hear him there?
Yeah,
we're trying to get him. We're trying to get him. So go with us. We see him here. He looks like he may be saying sayonara.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He said he would, if he were elected, he would take off his hat. And
I have seen it a couple times off
on our show.
Yes.
He did it.
Oh, he
Yes,
did it, yes.
And he did it right at a time when he had it off for the first time, and he didn't put any sun on his head, so it looked very different. Anyway, finish what you're saying, because I think that's really.
How do you keep them involved in the process? And
well, of all my criticisms of Mamdani, no one could criticize him in terms of the way that he's energized the young. And it's, even though it's not my brand of politics, I'm grateful that he's brought people into the fold. The problem becomes twofold. Separate that group into two buckets. There's the ones that are the true socialists, and then there are ones that are the inspired.
Yeah.
The inspired non-socialists, they're going to want things like more affordable rent and better paying jobs. And Mamdani is going to need the business community to deliver that, because his freeze the rent does not cover market rate. It does not. It's only for the rent stabilized. For the socialists, understand that he's going to be held to account if he doesn't make radical change. They've already said it. Nobody really noticed this, but he pledged during his campaign that he was going to bring committees of socialists in to supervise, to look over agencies to make sure that the policies were consistent.
You don't have the right to run.
Let's listen to him for a second.
We will determine who the next mayor is. And you remember what I told them. No, no, no. And then they bribed me as much as $10 million. And I'll never forget, my great wife Nancy was listening to that final call when a person said to me, "Come on, Curtis, everybody has a price." Well, guess what? We don't have a price. You can't buy us, rent us, lease us. We are not for sale. We are the people. So, we have a mayor-elect. Obviously, I wish him good luck, because if he does well, we do well. But I will tell you this. We have spent 2 years organizing this movement. It's not just Republicans or Democrats or independents. It's animal lovers. It's people who've been disenfranchised. People who have been pushed to the side, whose voices have not been heard. The homeless, the emotionally disturbed, the veterans, the people who ride the subways. We've been with them each and every day. And we will not surrender. We will not retreat. We will not leave the city of New York.
Our viewers on Channel 7.
Good evening. I'm Shade Bedoredmois. We do have a race to call in the New Jersey governor's debate.
I'm Mike Marza. By the way, we will get back to Dancing with the Stars in just a moment, but you will not miss a moment of the dancing, but a big news update to bring you. As ABC News is now projecting, based on the analysis of the vote, that the Democrat, Mikie Sherrill, will win the governorship in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah, the former Navy helicopter pilot has been campaigning hard, and she has won against Jack Ciattarelli. Again, she is the projected winner. We want to go to Anthony Johnson, who is in East Brunswick, who is there at campaign headquarters, and there's got to be a lot of excitement.
A tremendous amount of noise when they saw those projections flash up on the screen. They realize now that they have a winner here in New Jersey. Governor Mikie Sherrill, Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill. A lot of excitement. Speakers are already up here. People started to flood the room when they saw the projections start to pop up. They had been waiting, anxiously anticipating this moment. They were feeling good. They were buoyed all evening long, since 8 o'clock when the numbers first started coming in, but then they started to realize that her momentum was building all along. And of course, it looks like she won by a margin much bigger than many of the polls had projected. Of course, they said this race was going to be a very tight race, but from what you can tell at this point in time, she's won this race handily. We don't have a word yet on when she's going to be coming down here to, of course, address this audience, but they are excited. They are ready, and they are just elated about her performance here tonight. That is the latest live. Back to you in the studio.
Anthony, we're curious as we have been watching this vote come in all night, and from the early indications, Mikie Sherrill maintained a lead. What were some of the key points that the people who were feeling optimistic about to get her over the finish line in this race?
You know what? I just got a chance to talk to Newark Mayor Ras Baraka. Of course, he was a primary challenger. He did very well in that race, and he said that she was very gracious. After that race, he got on board. A lot of other people that had fought against her in the primary started to get on board, and he was telling me that her team went to work. Since the June 11th primary, they were out there knocking on doors, making the telephone calls, connecting with the people, talking about the issues of affordability, talking about the economy. And when I asked him what role maybe President Trump might have played on it, he said really President Trump was just the icing on the cake. He felt that Mikie Sherrill stuck to the message and delivered here tonight.
Okay, thank you so much, Anthony Johnson. We now want to go to Tony Yates, who's with the Ciattarelli camp in Bridgewater. And Tony, this has got to be a disappointing night for Ciattarelli. This is his third time running for governor. He thought that this was going to be his time. He lost by 3 percentage points from the last go-round against Murphy, but he couldn't do it. A lot of disappointment tonight, you can tell from those behind you.
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of people. This ballroom is still very much filled, but I can tell you all night, the vibe has been more like a cocktail party or a wedding reception without the dancing. People have been milling about. There are no big monitors in this room telling people, showing people the votes as they come in, but I want to show you this little corner right next to me. There is one of my colleagues has maybe a laptop-sized monitor where she's doing her live shots for her station. That is the biggest monitor in this room that's showing people the projections as they come in, and that's why you see these people behind us gathered, because this is the only place other than their personal phones that they're getting these projections in this room tonight. It doesn't seem like anybody has left. People are looking at their phones. They're having conversations. One person did walk up to me about a half an hour ago and said, I hear they're already ready to, project it for Mikie Sherrill. So people are still milling about. I guess at some point tonight we are going to hear a concession speech because people are beginning to gather up. If you can see far behind me where you see all of the flags there, they have the podium set up for when Jack Ciattarelli comes down to talk to his supporters. And so they are still here. They are still waiting to hear from their candidate. They are looking at this one monitor next to me that is calling Mikie Sherrill the projected winner for this race. And there are a lot of sad faces in this room right now.
Okay, Tony Yates, thank you so much. And another race we're looking at closely is the New York City mayoral race. We've got some of the votes that are in.
Yeah, right now you can see Zohran Mamdani leading with about 69%, so almost 3/4 of the way in with the votes being counted. So again, the race for New York City mayor, the votes still being counted as we will watch them tabulated throughout the night. By the way, you did not miss a moment of Dancing with the Stars. A lot happening tonight. We're going to get you right back to the action right after a quick break.
And we did not make you miss for a second the Dancing with the Stars, right? We did not.
We're back.
We're going to dance later, I promise. Okay, I don't promise. I'm just joking. Yes, you can jump in.
Please jump in.
I would love to get, we're with Jim Walden, who ran for mayor himself in New York City, a businessman. Tell me what you thought of those two things you just saw today.
So, in terms of the...
I'd love you to hear New Jersey as well.
Oh, listen, I think that she's an amazing candidate. I mean, she's the kind of person that, think about it. She was a federal prosecutor. She served in the military. She's obviously extremely bright.
She flew aircraft.
It's really impressive. I like Ciattarelli a lot, but she really is kind of the what we need in terms of she's young, she's dynamic, she's energetic, and I think that she's going to be a great governor.
Did you see the ad that she's got 57% of the vote, 42% for Ciattarelli, and now we're calling it 64%. And did you see the ad that he put over and over and over again, where she sort of screwed up and said, I can't remember what I would say if I had one thing to do.
I didn't see that.
Oh,
she wasn't able to answer the question fast enough.
Yeah, and they just used that over and over and over again. And it's like sort of, okay, we all sort of, I have done it 15 times today already. So we all do that, and all of a sudden they lampooned her, and it was just a little too much, I think, for them at that point.
Well, listen, this is my first run, and so I had to do my share of attacking people, and I tried to do it with a certain level of decorum. And
did it come natural?
Well, no. Honestly, it was the part of even for stuff that I really felt strongly about, I hated doing it, and if I had to do it all over again, I would literally run on, you are not going to hear me attack the other people one time. Now, I probably would fall flat because people want that, but I would
they
so
don't
much
really, do they? Do you want to hear that?
I think sometimes it's entertaining, is what it is, but it does sort of cloud the issue a lot of times. I think you just want to get to the meat of the thing and prove you can do the job.
Sure, you don't want to run for governor? I mean, for mayor again, right?
Well, we'll see in 2029.
We are concerned about some of this stuff. Yeah. And you saw Sliwa. One more question. We're going to go back to the main list today. But what did you think about Sliwa's talk?
Listen, I think that Curtis spent way too much time talking about how other people were trying to get him out of the race, and people. I mean, if he was going to stay in the race, he should have made the race about his policies and started trying to recruit. The thing about Sliwa is he can't win centrist Democrats because he spent too much time, a part of his career, doing buffoonish things. So if I were in his shoes, I would have started bringing in a police commissioner. I want you to meet the person who's going to be my police commissioner with City Hall's blessing. Here's the person that's going to be in the Corp Council. Here's the person who's going to be the director of finance. Build a team around him.
So
that would have helped people say.
He did say this. He wanted her to be the continued police chief.
Yeah, that's true.
Jim, really great to meet you and
Thank
talk to you. Thank you very much.
So I'm getting kicked off before the dancing.
You know what? Go into a television. Do it. Stay right here for a second because we're going to continue on to
right.
NJ Burkett, right?
Yes,
there? Okay.
NJ is at Zohran Mamdani's headquarters in Brooklyn. NJ?
Yeah, a lot of happy, upbeat people here because they like what they see so far. The music is pumping. The auditorium is filling up here at the Paramount. And every so often, you hear a cheer. And one of the other stations has just declared the mayoral race for Zohran Mamdani. So as we're going on live, we're going to go back to you guys.
All right, NJ,
thank you very much, NJ. So that's big if it's true. We're trying to look at it. I'm looking right now.
Keep you posted.
Hang on for 1 second. Do we have anything? I'm looking at the book right now.
The New Jersey governor's race, it has been called for Mikie Sherrill. Can you put those numbers up again for us? All right, with 57% of the vote to Jack Ciattarelli's, 43%, 69% of the vote in. ABC called that race for Mikie Sherrill.
Okay, all right, we're going to keep looking at this. If we can just take a look at the Sherrill picture there, and if we get the Ciattarelli thing too as well, we can both look at what they're doing, and we can talk a little bit about what they may be thinking. Ciattarelli has not come up yet. Sherrill has not come up yet.
Well,
right?
coming into this election day, this race really, a lot of the polls had the two of them neck and neck. And a lot of people wondered how much of an influence Mr. Trump would be. This is a live picture from the Mikie Sherrill campaign headquarters tonight. That is where our Anthony?
Yep.
Anthony Johnson is in Bridgewater, New Jersey. We are waiting to see when Ms. Sherrill, now the governor-elect of New Jersey, as ABC has called it for tonight, waiting to see when she will speak to the crowd there in Bridgewater.
It was a brutal political affair between these two people. They didn't quite like each other. I don't think that they're going to be, sending out Christmas or Hanukkah presents or at anything for them.
New Jersey voters told us in our early exit polling that they were concerned about a lot of the same things that New York voters were concerned about. Affordability in New Jersey, taxes, a long time concern. The cost of electricity in New Jersey, those were the things people were concerned about. And many said this race would likely come down to who New Jersey voters believed could address those problems better. Jack Ciattarelli said he liked the way President Trump was doing things now. He wouldn't change a thing, and it appears New Jersey voters wanted a change, and they went with Mikie Sherrill.
When we had the debate with them, they got very testy, both of them. It was Mikie Sherrill's best performance that I have ever seen her. He's a better speaker in general, but he got very angry at her, said he was going to sue her. That has not kept on yet at all. But as we're looking 70%, 57 to 43.
And we are getting new information in our ear right now. ABC News has called the New York City mayoral race for Zohran Mamdani.
Yep,
we're
getting it right over right now.
He will be the next mayor of New York. You heard NJ Burkett just a few minutes ago. He was at the campaign headquarters in Brooklyn. We heard that cheer go up when they put the latest count on a screen. It looks like they had reason to be cheering.
That's it. And this is what it looks like with 75% of the vote in, 50% for Mamdani, 41% Cuomo, and as Sandra just reported, you heard it happen live right here. ABC now projecting that Zohran Mamdani will be the 111th mayor of the city of New York. He's got a whole lot of promises he made. He's a very smart guy. He has little experience doing this, but he had a lot of supporters saying what they wanted to hear from him, and they gave a very different view of what could be for the new mayor of New York, and he's got a big uphill battle. I keep wondering when we've had this, and I can say this now, I wonder if, because they're going to be fighting with, Trump is going to do whatever he wants to do, and he's already taken away money from New York City. He's already done that. Big projects. He says he's going to do more. What if he hires Mr. Cuomo and say, you know what? I need your help. Okay. We gotta do this together.
All right. I think we got to get through election night, and we got to get.
I bet you some of our guests will say this.
Mamdani sworn in before any of that happens, but he was obviously able to do something that other candidates weren't able to do. He fired up so many young voters. He made people believe that he is going to take the city in a different direction. Affordability is what he campaigned. He gave them specific ideas of what he wanted to do. Of course, there's still questions that remain about how he's going to accomplish that. And I guess the business community and older, more seasoned politicians here are going to have to figure out how they are going to work with this young man, this young new mayor, to make this city work.
And the flip of that, as what you're saying, is also important. He's got to have to figure out how to deal with them.
Well, yes, he will, because I believe he wants to get things done. And I believe the people that voted for him don't believe they were overestimating his ability to do that. And now I think it serves the rest of the city to get on board and try to make sure he's a success, because if he's not, it affects all of us. 1 year ago, they had a little thing that said who were the people who would get the most amount of votes. And Mamdani said he was 1%. And there was someone else he doesn't remember that was also 1%. He doesn't know who that person was. He just crept up over the last year and has done something that is maybe unheard of with someone at this age to be able to do this. He said some things that voters wanted to hear, particularly young voters. And now I think part of his task is to figure out how to get those young voters to stick with him, to work with him. And I think Mr. Walden, on just a few minutes ago, said it. It's going to take a coalition to get this work done. Zohran Mamdani with, what is that?
80%. 80% of the expected vote in, 51% for Mamdani, and 41% with Cuomo. We don't know what Sliwa has put in there, but it's approximately about 8%, and that would pretty much do that. We're going to talk about this. I do think that I know a lot of people would laugh at me about what I said about Cuomo, but I think it's time for the city then. Can it come together? And that's really the bottom line here. I think that our guests who are going to come on the stage any second here are going to say the exact same things, because that's what we have to do. This is for the instruction of the world, we do things that the rest of the world can't do. That's why they have more wars. That's why they battle each other. We trend not to do that. The goal is not to do that. And I think if we don't start applying some of this, we're going to be even more trouble. That's my opinion. And that's not what you pay me for, but that's what I'm saying right now, because we have a very interesting battle with Mr. Trump right now, because he has already said, I'm going to be ticked off if he becomes mayor. We have our guests with us right now back again. You guys want to talk about it again?
Yeah, James Vaca, former New York City councilman, now Queens College professor, and also Jennifer Jones Austin, Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies. She is the CEO. It appears Zohran Mamdani has been declared the winner of the mayoral race. We've all said he ran a campaign like none we've seen before. He's a 34-year-old young man. We are waiting for him to come to the podium. He's going to do that in a few minutes.
While we do that,
we're going to let the two of you tell us what you think and how the city moves forward.
I think now people will be watching. People will be looking to see who his hires are as commissioners, as deputy mayors. He's going to need people there who are aligned with him, but he's also going to need people who have experience in the bureaucracy and in the government.
And if he doesn't?
Well, if he doesn't, it's going to be harmful to the city. It's going to be harmful to him. There's no doubt, I think, no one questions his intellectual ability. He's a smart person. But the experience was raised as a campaign issue. So people will be looking to be reassured that there will be experienced hands, as well as people that the mayor may want to bring in who are not as experienced, but that's his prerogative. I also think that the transition will be carefully watched. We have Eric Adams in office until January 1st. An incoming mayor needs the outgoing mayor to be cooperative as power is transitioned. So I think people will be watching to see how that goes.
We are going to send you right over to Channel 7.
From Eyewitness News.
And we break into programming to give you an election result. ABC News is reporting that Zohran Mamdani is the winner. He will become the next mayor of New York City. This is a stunning political upset. The 34-year-old would become the first Muslim to lead New York City, the Democratic Socialists.
Huge news, and we are getting it before the 10 p.m. hour, so we want to remind you, you're not going to miss any of Dancing with the Stars, but an historic night, the 34-year-old who captivated the city with social media videos and hammering home a message of it costs too much to live in the nation's biggest city will now lead that city and become the 111th mayor of New York. NJ Burkett at the headquarters in downtown Brooklyn at the Paramount Theater. And what a show that Mamdani has put on in this campaign. And a lot of analysts will be studying how he was able to galvanize enough support, as Sade said, to upset the political veteran Andrew Cuomo in this race.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge news, NJ. We could actually hear everybody screaming from your position.
Yeah.
A lot of excitement there tonight.
Yes. Yeah, no question about it. The Paramount has erupted here in downtown Brooklyn. As you said, a historic night in New York. Zohran Mamdani now projected to win City Hall. He will be the city's first South Asian mayor, the city's first Muslim mayor, and the youngest mayor in New York City in more than a century. And it happened on a night of record turnout in New York. And think about this. This started out as an improbable campaign like over a year ago. And it went on in the last several months to become a juggernaut. He beat Andrew Cuomo, obviously an established political figure in New York for 40 years, beat him in the primary by 13 points. He beat him then. Cuomo got back into the race as an independent, and Mamdani never looked back. An aggressive campaign, a grassroots campaign that has clearly paid off for Mamdani. Mike?
There's going to be a lot of pressure once Mamdani is there in office to actually deliver on all of these promises. Free and fast buses, freezing the rent on more than 1 million rent-stabilized apartments, impacting more than 2 million people, free universal child care. What are the voters there saying tonight about that? Are they worried that he's not going to be able to get it all done?
I'm not hearing that, Sade. In fact, what I'm hearing from a number of political operatives, including elected officials who are here in support of Mamdani, is that the legislators in Albany, lawmakers in Albany, and the governor, not the least of whom in Albany, are hearing what happened in New York tonight, and they're paying attention. And so for many people who may feel as if Mamdani might not be able to enact some of his agenda because of obstacles in Albany and pushback in Albany, they may have to think again because of the victory that Mamdani was able to notch up tonight.
Well, I know one thing that he was looking for, NJ, was to see if more than 50% of people, he was looking for a mandate tonight.
Right. And I'm sure he's going to come out here on stage and act as if he does have one. And remember this too, right? You have a left-leaning city council, a very progressive city council. And now you're going to have an executive, the mayor of New York, with a left-leaning city council. So he will presumably be able to do a lot of things that he wants to do on the municipal level, let alone whatever has to happen in Albany once he's in.
It will be fascinating to see him build his cabinet and see what happens as we move forward now into him taking over the mayorship here in New York. NJ, thank you. Let's go to the other side of the coin tonight because Andrew Cuomo, Lauren Glassberg is at the Cuomo headquarters tonight. And when you look at some of the exit polling, Lauren, and I know you talked about this earlier, more than half of the voters cited the cost of living as the #1 issue. And Zohran Mamdani said that every single time he was in front of a microphone, he said it on social media. It was the main message that he tried to drive home, and it worked tonight. How disappointed is the Cuomo campaign that he was not really able to hone his message, certainly early on in this election?
Yeah, I'm not sure Mike Cuomo ever figured out what his exact message was. Consider this, we're at the Ziegfeld Ballroom right now, and there is no sign of any enthusiasm, definitely no dancing, no celebrating, because the 3-time governor of New York State has been denied a chance to be the mayor of New York City. Andrew Cuomo was a huge face in the Democratic Party, and he lost in the primary to an upstart, an assemblyman who no one had ever heard of a year ago. And once he decided, Cuomo, to run as an independent in this race, he never really found his footing. And sure, we can look at that now with the numbers that we're seeing tonight. But even in the polls, in the final weeks, we saw he was trailing by double digits. What was his message? At times, it was that he had experience compared to Zohran Mamdani, who had limited experience. At times, it was the idea that socialism would be bad for New York, and he was a true Democrat. So his message was never really clear, and he certainly never had the kind of momentum that Zohran Mamdani did.
Okay, Lauren, thank you so much. And right now we want to go to East Brunswick at Mikie Sherrill's camp. We are taking a look here at the latest numbers. ABC News projecting that Mikie Sherrill has won the New Jersey governor position at 56% to 43%, and 74% of the votes are in at this point. She's a former Navy helicopter pilot, a 4-term U.S. representative, a former prosecutor. She fought hard in this fight.
Yeah, 2 key races that people were watching across the country as we hear the loud applause there from the Sherrill campaign. You're going to hear all of this throughout the night here on Channel 7 and at ABC-7 NY. We're going to take a short break, and we'll rejoin all of the coverage right after this.
And welcome back. We continue our coverage. For those of you who are staying on streaming, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm Bill Ritter along with Sandra Bookman, and we have our beautiful guests here as well. And Jennifer, I want to come to you. Did we interrupt you in the middle of your talk? No. Okay, good. All right. So we'll get you in a second, and James, and we'll go to Jennifer. What's your take here? This happened so quickly.
I was not expecting it to happen so quickly. I mean, they started calling this race before, it seemed like it was before 9:30 or so. Of course, it's not ranked choice voting. It's not the presidential election. So we knew it was going to come in sooner. We knew we'd know tonight, but I didn't expect that we'd know so early. I think what it really reflects is just the excitement, the energy on the part of so many people, young people in particular. Can we just, for a moment, just give a shout out to young people, that they showed up. This young man instilled in them a sense of hope, and frankly, a sense of hope in older people as well. I have an 86-year-old mother who went out and voted for Mamdani because he was representing something they hadn't seen in a while. He stood up to the bully, right? He even saw Cuomo as a bully, and he stood up to him. And so I think we just need to live in that hope for a moment. It was hope versus fear. And I think hope won out tonight. A lot of the campaign that was run against Mamdani was a fear campaign. You know, what will this man do for the city in terms of our economy? What will it mean for certain people in the city? We saw a lot of Islamophobic rhetoric.
Yes, we did.
Right? And so it was a lot of fear. And I think he broke through that, and people said, enough of Trump and being afraid, and whatever that then trickles down to. So that's exciting. Now, one of the first things he's got to do is start putting this team together. And
You've done it
I've done it. I served as co-chair for Bill de Blasio during his first administration. He didn't need a transition in his second term, but in his first term, I was co-chair. And I remember going to meet with Patty Harris, who was then deputy mayor for Michael Bloomberg. And I said to her, I'd worked for Michael Bloomberg. And so I said to Patty, what do we need to be concerned about on the first day? And she looked at me and she said, duh, the weather. And it was like, what? I thought we were going to be talking about some political issue or some like campaign.
How did you react?
And I was like, oh, she's right. Like the trains have to move, right? The garbage has to be picked up. In the event of a blizzard, the snow has to be cleaned up. And on that first day,
there was that horrible storm. And didn't de Blasio get roasted?
Yes.
He learned very quickly.
I remember that.
There was
I remember distinctly because I was in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn, the streets in Brooklyn were clean. And when I came back to Manhattan, the crew, we were like, what happened to Midtown?
Exactly. And so she was spot on.
I do remember.
It's things like that that's going to challenge Mr. Mamdani. He's coming in January. January and February are snow months. Don't forget in history what snow did to John Lindsay.
Yes. Hurt himself.
Queens was buried in snow, and they never forgave the mayor.
It hurt your guy.
Oh, it hurt. Don't call him my guy. I did the transition.
People want city services delivered, and as long as this campaign was, and as energetic and as strenuous, the real job starts now because you have to govern. Governing is more difficult than campaigning.
It certainly is.
You have the realities that you have to face every day.
How do you bring in that which is going to help you deal with
I think it first begins with, and it's something that I've said time and time again to de Blasio. You know, I've actually said it to people in Mamdani's team. I've had the opportunity to talk with both Cuomo and with Mamdani, and I've said, you know, you're winning because you're a leader, and so you have to be very thoughtful and appreciative of the fact that they're not hiring you if they're gonna elect you to be a manager. They're hiring you to lead. They're hiring you for your vision. So make sure you surround yourself with strong, effective managers who can implement your vision.
That is the key.
That is excellent advice.
You know, John Lindsay said again that this is the second toughest job in the country. After president, this is the next in line. The job is not easy. It's a large city. There's a bureaucracy. There are services that have to be delivered. There are people who are in need. There are communities that have different opinions. One thing that I would do if I were the mayor would be, and I hope he does this, I think he would, is that he has to reach out to neighborhoods and communities where he may not have had a lot of support. Let them know he's the mayor for everyone, and that we want to move on.
Right, but let's just say this. I mean, these electeds are about to see something they've never seen before. Mamdani doesn't back down. And so if they try to stand in the way of his vision and his campaign promises, he knows how to work social media. He knows how to work like the streets. He's going to let people know they're blocking me. Trump is blocking me. If the state legislative body is blocking him, if the city council, he's going to be out there like we've never seen before.
Jennifer's right. When you deal with Albany or the city council, there's nothing like a popular mayor where you feel that when you go back to your district, you're going to hear it if you don't support the mayor on this issue or that issue that people are supportive of.
Let me say, I have to go and do another project for ABC News right now, just for a few minutes. We also have Rick Klein here, if Rick wants to come. I have to go right now. I will be back. Okay. I promise. I will be back. I will take these with me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us. So you don't see the transition, but you certainly hear it.
Do I get the Ritter seat?
All right,
this
so
is
we're
cool.
Yes,
this is cool.
We're happy to have you
here. This is the dream. Are you kidding me?
We are going to send it out to Mikie Sherrill's campaign headquarters, where they are celebrating tonight in New Jersey. She has been declared the winner in that race. Rick, is this what you anticipated that race would be? I should say,
yes.
Rick Klein is joining us now from ABC News. Did you expect for that race to be called as soon as it was? Going in, we thought it was, polls were showing it neck and neck.
This was the race I think Democrats were most worried about going into tonight. They thought that the Republicans, because Jack Ciattarelli came within 3 points, because President Trump came 10 points closer than he did just a year ago, there was a lot of concern about, wait a second, are the Republicans on the march? Is New Jersey tipping back toward red? This is a resounding no to that answer. And it's very rare in New Jersey for the same party to win 3 consecutive gubernatorial elections. Chrissy Todd Whitman, we remember getting 2 in a row. Then we had McGreevey, we had Corzine, Democrats back-to-back. Christie did his back-to-back, Murphy the back-to-back. This is going to be 3 in a row for the Democrats.
I'm just ask the producer, are we going to listen to Mikie? So we're going to take a few minutes to listen and to Mikie Sherrill taking her victory lap.
Have heard you. I hear you too. This was a tough fight, and this is a tough state. But I know you, New Jersey, and I love you. I've fought for you. I've spoken with thousands of you over this last year. I know your struggles. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. So serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor. When I was 18, I raised my hand and I swore to defend the Constitution. And that moment defines me. It taught me that leadership means carrying the weight of other people's hopes, standing firm when it's easier to bend, and always putting the common good above personal gain. And I know how hard it can be to serve in these times. And I just got a call from Jack Ciattarelli, and I want to recognize him for stepping up. And all of you know, I love our history, and our state motto has always stuck with me. In 1777, New Jersey was one of the first states to choose a motto. Anybody? Liberty and prosperity. I'm going to get some more civics education going. We'll get that known by all. But it was a demand for freedom from oppression and a commitment to creating better opportunity and a better future. That idea has defined us for almost 250 years. We fought for liberty at the crossroads of the American Revolution, turning the tide for our young nation at the battles of Trenton and Princeton. We offered prosperity as we built the nation during the Industrial Revolution. We've been the cradle of scientific discovery, inventing everything from the light bulb to the laser. Liberty and prosperity. I've seen the genius in that motto over the last year, because both are essential in our democracy. And as the president is backing away from this ideal, cutting SNAP, ripping away health care, terminating Gateway, we here in New Jersey are bound to fight for a different future for our children. We see how clearly important liberty is. We know that no one in our great state is safe when our neighbors are targeted, ignoring the law and the Constitution. But prosperity is equally essential. Liberty alone is not enough if the government makes it impossible for you to feed your family, to get a good education, or to get a good job. So in this country, that shouldn't be too much to ask. But right now, all of it seems at risk. Governors have never mattered more. And in this state, I am determined to build prosperity for all of our citizens. And I've heard from thousands of you about what liberty and prosperity mean to you, what it's going to take for your family to thrive. So I hear you, Newark. I'm going to work with communities from the ground up so all of our neighbors thrive. I hear you, sham, so I'm going to declare a state of emergency on day one to drive down your utility costs. I hear you, Westfield, so I'm going to make sure our kids are safe online and schools have the resources they need to address the mental health crisis. I hear you, Jersey City, so I'm going to hold government accountable, balancing individual liberty with collective responsibility, ensuring people are safe, healthy, educated, and free to pursue their dreams. I hear you, New Jersey. Good government doesn't just manage problems, it solves them. So I'm going to continue to listen and work with you to move our state forward, because I have learned so much as I've traveled our state. Our innovations, our businesses, our inventors and entrepreneurs have amazed me, but it's the people that have left the biggest mark, especially those who are fighting for prosperity for their entire communities. I was moved during my block walk in Trenton with Shanique as she spoke so passionately about the promise of her city and her neighbors despite the challenges. I love the group of young men from Monroe who've been hard at work on this campaign. They want a seat at the table and they're ready to fight for their future. The little girls who come up to me to say that they're going to be a governor or they're going to be a president. It reminds me of my own belief that anything was possible. Akeem's team, who worked their butts off, knocked over 60,000 doors. Akeem told me these are not the kids who will succeed in Trump's vision of this country, but they will in mine. The men and women in labor. Union jobs at a time when our economy is set up to make it harder and harder for working people. You know what? They don't just fight for their brothers and sisters in labor. They fight for all of us. For working families everywhere, so everyone has a shot. So thank you. Thank you to each and every person here tonight and across the state who's worked hard over the last year. Thanks to the thousands of volunteers who made millions of calls, texts, and canvases, to everyone who's ready to stand and demand a better future for our kids and our families, to my running mate, Dr. Dale Caldwell. You've already served our state so well, and I'm proud to have you by my side as we embark upon this new chapter for New Jersey. To my team, who put together a campaign the likes of this state has never seen, and helped in our efforts to create a great future for New Jersey. And thanks to my family, who put up with missed soccer games, lacrosse games, football games, volleyball games, swim meets, and rugby games, all to put up with this, so thank you. And a special thanks to my husband, Jason. Through 4 kids, 2 dogs, a hamster, numerous goldfish, 5 campaigns, an insurrection, and 2 impeachments, you have been a truly amazing partner. So thank you to everyone who's joined me in fighting for a better future. I know these are tough times. I know not everyone voted for me, but I'm working for everyone. Every single one of you. When we all do better, we all do better. So tomorrow begins a new day. And at each new day in New Jersey, the sun rises over the Statue of Liberty. A daily reminder of her promise. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. She declares that her lamp lights the path to the golden door. That golden door is New Jersey. It always has been. And that expectation is well deserved, especially after this election, where we chose, we're going to follow Lady Liberty's beacon. We're not going to give in to our darker impulses. Here in New Jersey, we know that this nation has not ever been, nor will it ever be, ruled by kings. We take oaths to a constitution, not a king. We've chosen liberty, the very foundation of democracy, and we've chosen prosperity necessary to create opportunity for all. So New Jersey, to quote the boss, the future is now. Roll up your sleeves, let your passion flow. The country we carry in our hearts is waiting. Thank you, New Jersey.
Listening to New Jersey Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill taking her victory lap tonight, referencing the Statue of Liberty, even referencing the whole No Kings movement. A happy woman for good reason. We've got with us ABC's Washington Bureau Chief Rick Klein. You're an expert in all things politics. This was a neck-and-neck race coming into the night. At least that's what a lot of polls did. It didn't look neck and neck when you look at those final numbers.
No, you're 100% right, and I think Mikie Sherrill will emerge as one of the bigger stars of this night. The idea that she's going to win as comfortably as she did, and I was looking at the maps earlier, and you can just see in all the places that Democrats needed to do well, she did very well. In all the places that Republicans need to do well, she cut into the margin significantly. And the fears that Democrats had coming into the night, noting that Jack Ciattarelli came within 3 points of beating the incumbent governor, Phil Murphy, last time around, and the way that Donald Trump came much closer than any Republican in recent history to winning the state. Was there going to be further slippage? Mikie Sherrill was able to answer that with a resounding victory tonight. And she will be someone who is looked to on the national stage, along with Abigail Spanberger, now the governor-elect in Virginia. They both were elected at the same time in 2018. They've got a long, close relationship with each other. And both of them, I think, are going to be looked to as leaders of the party from a much different wing than Zohran Mamdani. These are two moderates. They're moms. They have national security backgrounds. And they are the newest governors elected in the United States tonight.
So a lot of people have said that this election, those elections in particular, the New Jersey race, governor's race, as well as the Virginia governor's race, kind of a sneak peek at what we might expect to see or might influence what we see in the midterms. Now we've got Zohran Mamdani in the mix as winning the New York. Any clearer what the midterms? Is it going to be as much of a catfight as people seem to think it might be?
Well, it's definitely going to be a district by district fight. But I think the types of candidates that will run and step forward will be different in different places. New York City is different than the state of New Jersey, which is different than the state of Virginia. And to win the House of Representatives, you have to run different types of candidates as Democrats in different places. So I don't think it really brings ideological clarity, but it does give some sense of how Democrats can be motivated. You're going to see tonight in New York, we already have record turnout. It's possible that Mamdani gets more votes than any mayor in New York history when this is done. And turnout was up across the board in a lot of these races. We're expecting big turnout in California, where the polls are still open for a little while longer. So the fact that Democrats were able to come out this year, I think people have been sort of weary of politics over the last year, but they woke up on the Democratic side tonight, and they're having a very big night, motivated by what they've seen from Donald Trump and motivated by the focus that so many of these candidates had on just basic cost of living issues.
Yeah, and we've got other guests sitting here with us tonight. In addition to Rick Klein, we've been talking to James Vaca, former New York City councilman, and Jennifer Jones-Austin. Jennifer, we talked a little bit before Rick came in about the job that Mamdani has in front of him. He's going to have to build a coalition. People who never maybe worked with someone as young as Zohran Mamdani. How does that happen?
So I think we have to first appreciate that this young man has run a very effective campaign. He's demonstrated that he actually knows how to lead and manage a campaign. We may be a little more anxious than we should be. We didn't see any big, slip-ups. No big, like catastrophes or anything of that nature. And so maybe we should begin there. He seems to be very thoughtful. He seems to be very smart. He appears to be very strategic. And so, while we don't know who he's going to put in the deputy mayor roles at this particular point, I'm sure that he's got a pretty good sense already. I remember when serving as co-chair for Bill de Blasio, we knew in the days leading up who was going to sit in those key seats: the director of the Office of Management and Budget, the deputy mayors for housing and urban and economic development, and the like. We had a pretty good sense. So I imagine he doesn't want to fail.
No.
He just needs to get the right people who believe in his vision and will help him manage to it.
He's going to have to watch how city agencies operate, how they're managed. He's going to want to improve upon where we are today, not see a decline in where we are today. I'm watching the numbers. He's nearing 50%. He seems to be at 50%. Well, if he's below 50%, they will say he does not have a mandate. If he makes 50, 51%, then you cannot say that Curtis Sliwa was a spoiler. So even the numbers coming in will be the object of much discussion. But he is going to be the mayor. So he's got to start in that mode of, how do I get to where I want to go, and how do I get people running these agencies, deputy mayors and commissioners, who will be there and monitor things and make sure things run well, because that reflects on him.
But he will be able to say that he did something that has not yet been done. He brought the young people out.
Yes.
And the young people are the future of this party. And so they can't take that away from him.
And I'm going to have to cut you all off, or I'm going to lose my job. Thank you guys for sitting down with us tonight.
you.
James
Thank you.
Baca, Jennifer Jones Austin, Rick Klein. You're not going anywhere. We're going to send you over to WABC-TV Channel 7, where we will continue our election night coverage.
In this room? Absolutely, Sade.
Talk about being unstoppable, NJ. I mean, think about all the money that was poured into this race. We know former Mayor Bloomberg poured I think $8.3 million into this race. He then gave an additional $1.5 million last week. We had other billionaires that put money in. The
Supporting
Lauder
Cuomo.
family, supporting Cuomo. The Lauder family, $2.6 million. Bill Ackman, he had a few million as well. There were so many forces at play here to try to stop Mamdani, but it just didn't happen. This was his night.
Right. It really was an improbable, quixotic campaign from the very beginning. But I do want to make a point, Sade, about the business community, because it's really not fair to paint the city's business community with one brush. As you know, it's not a monolith. And there are several people, high-ranking people in the city's business community who told me that they thought that Mamdani's affordability agenda could actually help business in New York. How? By retaining workers and by attracting workers. If the city were more affordable, those businesses might be able to better attract people to come to New York, and then, of course, to keep those workers once they're here. So that's a very important point to keep in mind. And I spoke also to several elected leaders and lawmakers from Albany tonight who were saying to me, don't necessarily assume that Mamdani's tax proposals will be dead on arrival in Albany. They're watching, they're paying attention, they're listening, not the least of whom is Governor Kathy Hochul, who's up for re-election next year. Sade, Mike?
And speaking of Governor Hochul, she already said that she doesn't want to raise taxes. He wants to raise taxes, the corporate taxes, from 7.25 to 11.5, and he also wants to do a 2% flat tax for anyone making over $1 million. But Hochul says that she doesn't want to raise those taxes. So how is he going to do this? How is he going to get his agenda across, NJ?
Well, remember, though, he had the Speaker of the State Assembly, and they had the Majority Leader of the State Senate, and then the governor who campaigned with him. Yes, she said several times that Mamdani and I have some differences, but remember, this election is sending a message to all of them. Does that mean she's necessarily going to raise taxes in the ways that he wants those taxes to be raised? No, it doesn't necessarily say that. But what it does say is that the door is conceivably open to precisely that, Sade.
Well, NJ, you know, I'm curious. We talk about the politics. Now let's talk about the person, because here's a guy who seemingly came out of nowhere. You mentioned he just turned 34, born in Uganda, raised in Cape Town, moved to New York City when he was 7, and then attended the Bronx High School of Science, and he was off and running, spending 3 terms in the assembly. But it's interesting to think about all those people who had criticisms for his policies, but the historic nature of his rise to this moment to become the 111th mayor of the biggest city in this country is truly remarkable, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, and you know, I want to read to you a statement that was just texted to me from the Reverend Al Sharpton. And he says, quote, "Not since the election of Barack Obama in 2008 have voters been this energized or hopeful about a candidate. Mayor-elect Mamdani's victory represented not only the belief in a single candidate, but the idea that New York City can once again be affordable, especially for black and brown communities." That statement just texted to me from the Reverend Al Sharpton. So, yeah, it's an historic moment. It's a big deal for the city of New York. Now, the question is, what can he do on the municipal level? Well, he's got a progressive city council. We know that. Now you've got a progressive guy in the mayor's office. So presumably a lot of these progressive ideas and concepts and policies will be enacted in the months to come. Obviously, after January 1st, they're going to look to do a lot of things. They're going to look to close Rikers Island. You know, a lot of things that Mayor Adams vetoed or told them, if it comes to me, it's dead on arrival. That's not going to be the case after January 1st, Mike.
Yeah, no, NJ, you make a great point. Stick with us. We're going to be coming to you throughout the night. But, Sade, you know, we were talking. I live in Brooklyn, so I was out there, you know, in the streets, especially that brownstone Brooklyn sort of corridor, the Fort Greene, and then you have the Park Slopes and Cobble Hill. And I was talking to a woman today who said that she voted for Mamdani, and I said, well, what is it about him? And she said, it's the energy. He was able to capture the energy. I said, have you seen anything like this? And she said, Obama. And it's interesting that NJ just mentioned, you get the same sort of surge of enthusiasm, which is bared out in the record number of voters.
Yeah, it's really stunning how many people have come out to cast their vote on this. Let's go out to Lauren Glassberg right now, who is with the Cuomo camp, and certainly a really disappointing night. There were 2 playbooks here. You know, Mamdani certainly was looking to use the new playbook, and unfortunately Cuomo used the old playbook in this. And he admitted this week that he underestimated Mamdani. Sad night for him, for sure, Lauren.
Yeah, and we have not heard from the candidate yet, Sade, but Andrew Cuomo underestimated Zohran Mamdani as far back as the primary, which we know he fared very poorly in. And it really didn't serve as the wake-up call it probably should have for his campaign staff and for the candidate. He went into this race as an independent, despite being a very prominent Democrat for so many years, and he never really found his footing, nor did he find a very clear message. He was going up against Zohran Mamdani, who may have been a relative newcomer to the world of politics and a virtual unknown, at least for most people in New York City. But what Zohran Mamdani was able to do was captivate the voters with a very strong message of making the city more affordable, which of course NJ talked about. Cuomo's message was a little bit all over the map. Initially, it was talking about making the city safer and adding new police officers. Then he also talked about affordability, latching on to Zohran Mamdani's #1 priority and talking about building more affordable apartments and housing. Then he also talked about socialism and how that would be bad for New York City. And he talked about how he was the only one with experience. So the message was varied, and it depended on where he was in the campaign. But what he never got was traction. We saw that in the polls all the way through this race. He could never gain on Mamdani. And also, he was initially up against Eric Adams, the current mayor, who had a fair bit of support, although he was in 4th, and then Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, who many have called a spoiler. And this race is so close, it looks like Curtis Sliwa's votes, if they had gone to Cuomo, this would have made it a neck-and-neck race. But this is a longtime politician coming up against a really captivating, motivational speaker who had the young people enthralled, and that just carried out in waves to the rest of New York. He met his match with a newcomer, and perhaps this election really was a referendum on the old and the new, and perhaps Democrats of old and new Democrats, perhaps this social democratic socialist movement that we are seeing with Zohran Mamdani. But we have not heard from the candidate yet, and I can tell you the mood here is not great. One man was holding a sign that said Curtis Sliwa, the spoiler.
Lauren Glassberg, thank you. Of course, we'll be checking in throughout the night. But Shada, last time we saw Cuomo at one of these watch parties, he looked defeated because he was kind of hit in the face, proverbially, from Zohran Mamdani, and he never was really able to recover from that primary loss.
Well, joining us now, we've got Rick Klein to weigh in on these political matters. This is a huge win for Mamdani. Let's talk about that. And we just heard from Lauren Glassberg really talking about the playbook. Cuomo using that old playbook, whereas Mamdani, he leaned into new structures, getting the youth involved and raising, talking about affordability.
This is a political earthquake. It's wild to think about his rise from a virtual unknown, single digits in the polls at the beginning of this. Right. He talks about running in the marathon last year. No one knew who he was. Right now, he can't go on any city block in New York City without being absolutely mobbed. And he has changed the way you campaign. Now the question is, does he change the way you govern? This is going to be a mayoral election, I think, that people are going to talk about for many, many decades. And whether it's a successful time as mayor or not, Mamdani has shown that there's a way to change the old school playbook of how you win. The idea that he could beat not just Andrew Cuomo and the Cuomo dynasty, but also the incumbent mayor in Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa, who's such a well-known person, and as a Muslim American who is not yet 35 years old, not even old enough to run for the presidency if he wanted to. 34. He is, and he could slay these political giants and take on a political machine in New York as a Muslim man who is an immigrant to this country is just an absolutely astounding fact.
As a socialist in the capital of
capitalism. Yes.
And so what does this say to the rest of the Democratic Party when you have nationally people are watching this, frankly around the world people are watching this, but when you look at this landscape nationally and we move into the midterms next year, I know we're still on the election night tonight, all the votes haven't even been counted. What is this message to Democrats?
Well, there's some who are going to say this is the answer. You got to find someone that excites young people in America. And you talked a little bit ago about Obama, the Obama playbook, although he's significantly to the left of where Obama ever was. But if you can unite the energy of an ascendant left that with the youth of the energy of youth, you can have a winning playbook. That's one lesson of it. Another is going to be that maybe things work differently in different places, because at the same time we're talking about Zohran Mamdani, we're talking about brand new governors-elect in both New Jersey and Virginia who cut a much different profile. Two women, both of them with national security experience, both of them moms, and both of them coming to this as more moderates, people that are known as problem solvers. They came from districts that are a little more marginal, a little closer. They are not nearly as far left as a Democratic Socialist would be, and yet they were successful in states that, yes, they're blue-ish, but they have tendency to vote in Republicans. So if you combine those stars and you look at their profiles, one of the things it says to me as someone that watches this stuff is you got to be careful about who you run and where. There isn't going to be a silver bullet. It isn't a type of policy or a type of politician that works everywhere. You have to be thinking about these races and be willing to work, because Zohran Mamdani showed that you put in the work, you show the passion, you show the talents that he has in this, and you can be rewarded.
What about Sliwa? Was he the spoiler in all of this?
I think that undersells what Zohran Mamdani has accomplished, frankly. I think if Mamdani cracks 50%, then first of all, forget what Curtis Sliwa was. There's no way he would have gotten there. But even if he does, Mamdani did this on his own. And, this is the race you have to run. It's not that Andrew Cuomo didn't have name recognition or financial backing or anything else. He won fair and square in the primary, and now he's winning again in the general election. And I think the Sliwa effect, there's a lot of Republicans in this city that'll never be comfortable with voting for Andrew Cuomo. And Donald Trump sat on the sidelines of this race for all intents and purposes. You can look at a lot of factors. This was a wild race. race. It's a unicorn. We're not going to see this whole accumulation of factors, I think, ever again. But I think anyone that says this is just a fluke, I think, is missing the blaring signs that are emanating right now about what this actually means in Mamdani's win.
You mentioned New Jersey. I'd love to ask you about that. Do you mind hanging out for just a second?
Let's do it.
Because we just heard from Sliwa moments ago.
Let's go out to his camp with Stefan Kim. Stefan?
Well, Sade and Mike, before I get into the mood here at the Sliwa headquarters, I want to touch on something Lauren talked about, a sign that she saw at the Cuomo headquarters, which said Sliwa the spoiler. Now, Curtis Sliwa has said time and time again, the problems that the Democratic Party is facing, those are not his problems to fix. He also would argue that don't assume that just because if he were to drop out of this race, that all of his votes would automatically transfer to Andrew Cuomo. He also has argued that it is not incumbent on him to drop out of the race, rather for Andrew Cuomo to win Curtis Sliwa voters. Now, to the mood here at the Curtis Sliwa headquarters, if there was any more proof that tonight was not about winning tonight, the mood here is celebratory despite tonight's loss. Curtis Sliwa in his concession speech said, "We will not surrender, we will not retreat, we will continue on," as his supporters chanted, "Fight, fight, fight." He framed this campaign, his candidacy, as for the people, by the people, us versus them, against the billionaires, he called it. He also had a message for the mayor-elect. Let's take a listen.
Let me warn our new leader. If you try to implement socialism, if you try to render our police weak and impotent, if you forsake the people's public safety, we're not only organizing, but we are mobilizing, and we will become the mayor-elect and his supporters' worst enemies, worst nightmare.
And you heard it there. Curtis Sliwa is not going away. He did not go away during this campaign, even after facing intense pressure to drop out of this race. He campaigned hard until the very last day. He even said that they tried to bribe me out of this race. He said we are not for sale. He made a reference, of course, to President Trump about the people who asked his supporters to vote for Andrew Cuomo. There were boos in this crowd when he said that. Notably, there were also Trump supporters in this crowd. A very odd dynamic here at the Curtis Sliwa headquarters. Back to you guys.
Stefan Kim with Curtis Sliwa tonight. Stefan, thank you.
And we want to bring Rick Klein back in the conversation. Rick, let's now move forward.
Yeah.
Voters are going to be patient for so long.
Yeah.
How much time do you think Mamdani has to actually get these programs going?
About 12 New York seconds. I mean, it is, and of course, you take office in New Year's Day in New York, so you have even less time. I've been told by people that have had conversations with him, including people that have held elected office in the past, that he's receptive to the ideas that he's been talking about. Who do I need where? What do I need to do day one? He's going to be judged, like any mayor is judged, on what he actually does, not how he campaigns. And the blocking and tackling, the basics of running a city, making sure the trash is collected, making sure the snow is removed, making sure when there's
we know de Blasio, remember that very first snowstorm?
Yes, this is what can undo you. And there's so many other things. You're talking about Donald Trump was talking about withholding federal funds, the idea that he could bring the National Guard in. The first tragic event that might involve a member of the police force. How does he handle that, given the animosity that appears to be there from the beginning? Who does he surround himself with in terms of competent governance? Those are the decisions he'll have to make, and make extremely quickly, under a microscope unlike we've ever seen, because he is a national figure for all intents and purposes. Everything he does here in New York over the next 4 years is going to be scrutinized and covered, especially on the right, where Donald Trump and right-wing media cannot wait to be talking about everything he does.
It's interesting you bring that up because, I mean, Mamdani is going to be in charge of a budget bigger than most countries, or a lot of countries, I should say.
$115 billion budget.
And something that he admittedly has never done before.
Yeah.
And that was one of the criticisms on the trail. You mentioned President Trump because it's an interesting aspect to the New Jersey governor's race.
Yeah.
And you had Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican, who kind of had him at an arm's length, held a couple of tele-rallies, never came to actually rally with Jack Ciattarelli in person. How much did the Trump factor play a role in that race, do you believe?
Well, look, if Ciattarelli loses by as much as it seems like he will not have done as well even as Donald Trump did in the state. And he doesn't come close to as well as he did 4 years ago when he had a much more independent profile. He decided to hitch his wagon to Donald Trump. And if you're a Republican, maybe there's no other way to do it. But Republicans who voted for Trump did not show up for him tonight. They showed up either for Sherrill or they sat it out. And there's going to be a lot of soul searching about that strategic decision. Ciattarelli, of course, started as a never Trumper a long time ago in ancient history now, but he tied his fortunes to Trump. And I was struck by how little Trump did for him, or really for any of the candidates that were out there today. He endorsed Andrew Cuomo at the very last second. He was very grudging endorsement in Virginia and kind of half-hearted in New Jersey. It was Barack Obama out there on the stump, not anything from Donald Trump in the last couple of days. So maybe Donald Trump realizes, as he's already said tonight, look, I wasn't on the ballot, and that's different. But Republicans have to realize Donald Trump's not going to be on the ballot again in the midterms next year or in the next presidential. And this will set in the new phase of the Trump presidency as well. And we'll see how he reacts to that.
And this is a good night for Democrats. They have got to be excited about this win in Virginia and here in New Jersey. And now they also have to contend with this democratic socialist and what this means.
That's right. And do you embrace that or not? And, people are going to make the comparison to how Donald Trump took the Republican Party by storm. And Mamdani isn't at that level, and I don't think that's an apt comparison. But what Donald Trump was saying to Republicans is, guys, stop fighting it. Look what I'm getting done here. I'm winning. I'm winning in primaries in very red states and very blue states. Fall in line because it's a successful model. And, Mamdani's going to be able to say something similar. Look what I got done in the nation's largest city against all these formidable opponents. Look what I was able to accomplish. You're going to want a piece of that.
Certainly got the attention. You even have California Governor Newsom saying, look, whatever the politics, you got to pay attention to what he was able to generate. So it'll be interesting to see if that's perhaps a blueprint of some kind as they move forward.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Bureau Chief. We always appreciate it. Rick Klein, thank you.
Thank you,
so
guys.
much.
It was great being with you.
Yep.
It's always great being with you. Well, now we want to go to Anthony Johnson, who is with the Mikie Sherrill camp, and I'm sure that they are still celebrating. We heard from Mikie Sherrill earlier, thanking her husband, thanking her kids, saying the future is now, that this was a tough fight, and good governance doesn't just manage problems, but solves them.
Yeah, she also talked about liberty and prosperity, and of course that's been the message all throughout the campaign, talking about affordability and how to make the state affordable for everybody to be able to live in. She also has always talked about education, making sure kids are safe online. She gave a 15-minute speech coming up here about 10 o'clock. She said she heard from Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli. The crowd was just enthusiastic when she stepped up on the stage. She bringing her family up here. It's been quite an evening. It started out looking good from her right from the very beginning as the early numbers started to come in, and they stayed consistent right throughout the evening. So many polls had this race getting closer and closer and closer, but ultimately it was the voters who decided, and they decided overwhelmingly to support Mikie Sherrill. She spoke to the crowd here. She says she's ready to go get the job done, and she's calling on all the people here in New Jersey to help her move forward with the new agenda. Of course, she will become governor on January 20th of next year. She'll become the 57th governor, the first female Democratic governor elected here in the state of New Jersey. Once again, she did give a very rousing speech.
This was a tough fight, and this is a tough state. But I know you, New Jersey, and I love you. I fought for you. I've spoken with thousands of you over this last year. I know your struggles. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. So serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor. When I was 18, I raised my hand and I swore to defend the Constitution. And that moment defines me. It taught me that leadership means carrying the weight of other people's hopes, standing firm when it's easier to bend, and always putting the common good above personal gain. And I know how hard it can be to serve in these times. And I just got a call from Jack Ciattarelli, and I want to recognize him for stepping up. And all of you know, I love our history, and our state motto has always stuck with me. In 1777, New Jersey was one of the first states to choose a motto. Anybody? Liberty and prosperity. I'm going to get some more civics education going. We'll get that known by all. But it was a demand for freedom from oppression and a commitment to creating better opportunity and a better future. That idea has defined us for almost 250 years. We fought for liberty at the crossroads of the American Revolution, turning the tide for our young nation at the battles of Trenton and Princeton. We offered prosperity as we built the nation during the Industrial Revolution. We've been the cradle of scientific discovery, inventing everything from the light bulb to the laser. Liberty and prosperity. I've seen the genius in that motto over the last year because both are essential in our democracy.
All right, so we've just been hearing from the governor-elect Mikie Sherrill in New Jersey. We want to go now to Andrew Cuomo, who was defeated by Zohran Mamdani as mayor in New York City. And you can hear the support from the former governor, who will not become the mayor of New York. We'll hear what he has to say about his failed attempt tonight.
You're taking my time. You're taking my time. First, let me. I love you too. I love you too. Let me acknowledge part of my special campaign team. We have from the right, Telef Lundaval, the new son-in-law, husband of Mariah. We have Mariah, Cara, Michaela. I want to thank our campaign chairman, Bill Mulrow, our great campaign manager, Greg Goldner. I want to thank Mayor Adams, who stepped out of the race to make us more competitive, and that was a very gracious thing to do. I want to thank Mayor Bloomberg, who gave us his support, Governor David Patterson, all the unions, and I am blessed. I am blessed to have the people in this room. You have been a phenomenal team, great friends. You are superstars. Even more, you are New York patriots, and I am proud of you. This campaign was the right fight to wage. And I am proud of what we did and what we did together. This campaign was to contest the philosophies that are shaping the Democratic Party, the future of this city, and the future of this country. And this coalition transcended normal partisan politics. It brought together Democrats and Republicans and independents, joined by the simple fact that their first allegiance is as citizens of New York City. $2 million voters, the largest number in modern political history, cared enough to show up in a municipal election. And 42% voted for us on an independent line. That is the highest percentage in modern history. Ironically, it is just higher than when Mario Cuomo got 40% on an independent line against Ed Koch in 1977. It's also important to note that almost half of New Yorkers did not vote to support a government agenda that makes promises that we know cannot be met. We support an economy of jobs, of opportunity, of entrepreneurship. That's what New York is, and that's what New York must remain. We are a nation of laws, and we believe in law and order, and we need the police to keep society safe. We will not make the NYPD the enemy. We cherish our diversity, and we have no tolerance for discrimination of any kind by race, religion, sexual orientation, or creed. And we will not tolerate any behavior that fans the flames of anti-Semitism or diverse attacks. Our strength is our unity. Black, white, brown, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist. We are one. We are the family of New York. We believe in interconnection and mutuality and codependence. And you attack one of us, you attack all of us. That is what it means to be a New Yorker. No one and nothing will ever divide us. And this campaign was necessary to make that point. A caution flag that we are heading down a dangerous, dangerous road. Well, we made that point, and they heard us, and we will hold them to it. Also, my friends, feel proud, because we accomplished the two important New York characteristics. We got up off the mat after the primary, and we made it a real race when the media had already commenced the coronation. And feel proud, because we fought our hearts out and we left it all on the field. Congratulations to Zohran Mamdani. No. That is not right. That is not right, and that is not us. That is not us. Tonight was their night, and as they start to transition to government, we will all help any way we can, because we need our New York City government to work. We want it to work for all New Yorkers, because our city is the greatest city in the world, and we will unite for New York City because we love New York City. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you. I love you for the fight you made, for the soul that you showed, and the example that you set. New York City heard us, and we will be the better for it. Thank you, and God bless you.
And you were just listening to Andrew Cuomo. Well, the voters have decided it was not enough for him to win tonight. He was looking for a political comeback, but that did not happen. Cuomo congratulated Mamdani, but he did caution a flag. He said, "We are headed down a dangerous path, and we will hold them to account."
Flanked by his daughters, also mentioned his late father, the three-term Governor Mario Cuomo, in giving his speech, really championing the effort that they made on the independent line, switching to independent because he was defeated in the primary by now Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Let's go to Lauren Glassberg, who has been with the Cuomo campaign. She's at the headquarters tonight. Give us a sense of how his speech played in the room, Lauren.
Well, I can tell you it was a really interesting speech because while at the end he congratulated Mamdani, he had a number of fighting words before he got to that point, and that rallied his supporters, that rallied his base. He talked about how as an independent, he got 42% of the vote. That was the highest ever. He said that almost half the New Yorkers did not vote for the agenda that Mamdani was putting out. And to me, those are fighting words. He also said it's a nation of law and order. We need the police. We will not make the NYPD the enemy. He cherishes diversity and will have no tolerance for discrimination. And he also said that after the primary, when everybody thought he was dead, he still ran as an independent, and he made this into a race. He thanked Mayor Eric Adams for bowing out of the race. He called him gracious. He thanked Mayor Bloomberg for his support, his very public support and financial support. In the end, he said that, yes, we will help in this transition. We want New York to work for all New Yorkers. But when he did congratulate Mamdani, his supporters booed. And Andrew Cuomo said, no, we do not do that. That is not right. That is not us. So certainly a frustrating night for this longtime politician who was very much hoping to resurrect his political career. It was not his night to do so. Mike and Sade.
And perhaps witnessing the end of a political career, and so much history there with Andrew Cuomo as we hear Jay-Z and Alicia Keys with the infamous New York anthem literally playing off Andrew Cuomo, at least in this election. Lauren, thank you. We'll be checking back in at the top of the hour.
Well, now we want to check back in with NJ Burkett, who is with the Mamdani camp at headquarters in Brooklyn. And NJ, I do know that Cuomo's concession speech was actually playing there. Can you tell me the reaction of folks there in the room?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I guess, Sade, they couldn't hear it because the music is pumping. They did see him on television, on the big screen. He stepped out, they booed him, and then they couldn't really hear what he was saying. I was listening, but they couldn't hear it. And then when he went off the stage, they cheered that he was leaving the stage. It's to be expected, of course. And I think Lauren pointed out, made a very good point, that I think the former governor was very gracious in thanking him, in giving his due to Mamdani and to Mamdani's campaign. And then when people in the room started to boo, Cuomo said, no, that's not us. That's not essentially who we are. So yes, at times a gracious speech, but of course he does sound a bit bitter about the way this whole thing played out. And I think, Rick Klein will talk about this later, I'm sure, and others will analyze this. But Cuomo ran, it pains me to say this, but he ran an awful campaign. He announced that he was going to run in March through a video, dropped a 17-minute video out there on the web, then did a bunch of appearances in union halls, didn't stick around to take questions from reporters, snuck out a side door, got a Dodge Charger, and left reporters in the dust. He did that for weeks on end, not making himself available to the press corps. It was a bad look for him. And I will share also a story with you. And I asked one of his aides, at what point is the former governor going to take questions from people like me, from people in the media? And she said to me, after the primary, he'll be much more available. Well, we know how that turned out. Mike, Sade?
Yeah, and when you look at Mamdani, I mean, he appeared to run circles around Cuomo, appearing in all of this social media, garnering millions and millions of views. I mean, furthering his agenda of affordability, talking about rent freeze and that famous polar plunge. He just resonated with folks, and he was appearing in rallies where you saw thousands and thousands of people, and then you see a split screen of Cuomo, and he's with 2 or 3 people. Maybe he appeared at a church. So there was a very vast difference on how these two ran their campaigns.
Well, there was a good reason for that, Sade, because in the end, Cuomo lost all his union support. Mamdani had the most powerful unions, the biggest unions in the city, after Cuomo lost the primary, they all went to Mamdani. So what do you need to run a big rally? You need to have your union supporters there, and yes, also the grassroots people. But the union people showed up for those rallies. That's what made them so telegenic. That's what made them so powerful and made such great pictures for Mamdani. And just understand that this guy was essentially fearless. Fearless, Sade, from beginning to end. He never feared failure. He always believed and stayed on message every step of the way. He had a bad debate performance, not bad, but it wasn't a great debate performance in the second debate. But he didn't let it slow him down. He didn't let it kill his confidence. He put one foot in front of the other. So did his followers and his supporters. And so here we are tonight, Sade.
Oh, and Jay, you know, another thing I was actually thinking about was how Mamdani, at every turn in this election, he addressed any issue. When there was the issue of Islamophobia, he was outside of that mosque in Queens giving an impassioned plea saying, I will not hide in the shadows with my religion like my family often had to do after 9/11. Right. He was present at every moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I was there for that speech, Sade, and I know that some people criticized him and said, oh, those are crocodile tears. You know, I watched that speech in person, and I have to say, I mean, I was very, very impressed, and I think a lot of us were quite moved by it. I did not see it in the least bit as being insincere. I think, you know, having covered him now for several months, having been up close and spent time with him, I find him to be a very sincere guy. Now, that's not making any judgment about his politics. I'm not talking about where he stands on the issues. I'm talking about his sincerity. And you know, I've spoken to guys in his security detail over the last several months, and they say, you know, if he becomes mayor, he's going to work all the time. And that's how he is, you know, in the campaign. That's what they said he's like in the campaign, that he just doesn't stop thinking, doesn't stop working, keeps trying to come up with ideas along the lines of his campaign planks, affordability. And a lot of people have said, well, he can't really get those things done. He's making false promises. Cuomo said that several times. And that, yeah, I mean, conceivably, perhaps he can't. Also, perhaps he can, because as I pointed out this evening, several state lawmakers are saying to me, again, albeit Democratic state lawmakers, are saying that there is potential for at least some sort of compromise to get some of this stuff through in Albany after the first of the year, after Mamdani is sworn in, and he gets to work with his coalition of lawmakers. And now, obviously, as you know, the governor endorsed him, getting together with all those folks to see what it is they can actually do in enacting the affordability agenda, Sade.
It's interesting, NJ, and we have about 90 seconds left before we're going to reset. So a two-part question, if you will. I'm going to pull a play out of your playbook. A two-part question. One, do we know when he's going to come out? Do we have any anticipation on when that's going to happen? And then two, you covered politics in this town for quite some time. Can you just put this in historical context for people watching this remarkable rise to where he is tonight?
Well, look, as I said, he went from obscurity, polling 1% in the polls, to now he's obviously going to win City Hall. I spoke with one of his top aides a few minutes ago, and I said, is he waiting for Cuomo to come out? And she said, you know what I think he's doing? He's writing the speech. I said, is he superstitious? He won't write it before the event? And she said, no. He just writes and rewrites and rewrites and rewrites. So, look, I expect him at any moment to come out.
We'll check back with you as we begin the 11 p.m. hour, but no doubt a historic rise, and we're watching it all play out. It's one thing to make social media videos and run a campaign. It is a much different thing to sit where he is about to sit in Gracie Mansion and be in charge of the nation's biggest city.
Yeah, he is going to be under a lot of pressure to deliver. He's going to need a lot of help in order to get some of these big ticket items through. We're going to have much more on this. Please join us next on Eyewitness News at 11. We'll be right back.
This is breaking news from Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
The voters have decided the next mayor of New York City will be 34-year-old Democrat Zohran Mamdani.
And in New Jersey, Democrats hold the State House for a third consecutive term with the election of Mikie Sherrill. And good evening at 11 o'clock. I'm Mike Marza.
And I'm Sade Better-Enwa. A busy and exciting night as election results are coming in. Governor-elect Mikie Sherrill defeating three-time Republican challenger Mikie Sherrill.
Tony Yates and Anthony Johnson at the Sherrill and Ciattarelli headquarters. But we begin tonight with the election of Zohran Mamdani as New York's 111th mayor. Mamdani defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Republican Curtis Sliwa and others who were still on the ballot.
NJ Burkett, Lauren Glassberg, and Safan Kim are with the candidates. We begin with NJ at Mamdani headquarters in downtown Brooklyn. NJ?
Yeah, right, Sade. A historic night here in downtown Brooklyn for the Mamdani campaign. He wins City Hall after an improbable campaign. He becomes the city's first Muslim mayor, the first South Asian mayor, and the youngest mayor in New York City in more than a century. And it happened on a night of record turnout. More than 2 million people went to the polls in a municipal election. An extraordinary night in New York. And now, you see the crowd is erupting. We're going to see somebody. Andrew Cuomo, as we know, conceded just a short time ago, gracious in his speech, but said that New York has got a lot of work to do and that the city is entering, because of Mamdani's election now, what he called a dangerous phase. Now, keep in mind, he said over and over that Mamdani was an existential threat to New York City. He did not take his foot off the gas in his concession speech. So now, as I said, the crowd is getting really worked up, and at some point, he's going to come out. I spoke earlier, actually a short time ago, to one of his aides who said to me he's probably still writing his speech because he writes and then he rewrites and then he writes again. So that's where we are right now, waiting for the candidate to get out on stage. I will not be surprised at all if it happens in the next few minutes. I spoke earlier this evening with New York State Attorney General Letitia James about what work Mamdani has ahead of him. Here's what she said.
Obviously, I have some difference with Zohran Mamdani with regards to his policies, but at the end of the day, he's going to protect the Jewish community. He's going to protect all communities. And most importantly, he's going to protect NYPD and expand NYPD and protect their interests as a whole. The number one issue is safety in New York City, and he is committed to doing just that for the Jewish community and all communities.
And that's Letitia James, the New York State Attorney General, expressing confidence that despite some differences that she and other Democrats may have with Mamdani and his agenda, that he will ultimately be able to provide the kind of security, the kind of criminal justice system that New Yorkers are demanding, that New Yorkers feel that they need. And she also made a point of mentioning that she expects him to protect the city's Jewish community. And I received information from the ADL tonight where they're saying, Jonathan Green, head of the ADL, saying that they are going to watch the Mamdani administration very carefully. Very carefully, they're putting the Mamdani administration on notice to ensure that the safety and sanctity of the Jewish community continues to be protected in the Mamdani administration. Again, obviously, they're working off of some statements that Mamdani had made in the past. But again, during the campaign, he said over and over again that I will protect the Jewish people as I will protect other people in the city. Again, every so often we hear the cheers come up, and you see the phones are up, and so you get the sense that that at any moment they're going to come out, and it might not necessarily be Mamdani coming out first. It could be any one of a number of people who are here tonight. So we're going to continue watching. Wait, somebody out on stage?
Looks like it could be happening soon. We're hearing the applause, the screaming, erupting.
They just switched the screen to his name and the campaign logo. Yes, absolutely.
Well, AJ, I think we're going to try to keep with you. Let's listen to what this woman has to say at the podium.
Sure.
Before I begin, let's give a big thank you to the venue staff who have made this night such a celebration. to join us on stage, but before he does, I want to say a few quick words of reflection and thanks and introduce a very special member of our team. So first, let's hear a round of applause for our day one endorsers, those who helped build this movement into what it's become.
MJ.
New York City DSA.
MJ.
Yes.
MJ.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I just
Yes,
really
it's
have
a little
one quick
noisy,
question
but-
for you before we go to the Cuomo camp with Lauren Glassberg. You know, his whole campaign was powered by the youth. They came out in droves supporting him. I'm curious to know, what is the makeup of that room? Is it mostly young voters there?
Well, you know, Sade, I don't think that I could generalize. It looks like the cross-section of New York City that he ran with and who supported him. Now, remember, in the last poll, the Marist poll, actually, because you've got young people and older people here, and the Marist poll said that he and Cuomo were essentially running even when it came to adults 45 and older. Now, you would expect Cuomo would have picked up the majority of those folks, but no. It's, again, testimony to the coalition that Mamdani was able to build.
And we expect to hear from the mayor-elect, Zohran Mamdani, any moment as we go through the introductions there. NJ, stay put. We want to go to the Cuomo camp now. Lauren Glassberg has been monitoring a much different field tonight. Lauren, after he gave that speech, you can see the lights are literally being turned off, kind of sort of symbolic of the campaign and the end of his run. What do you make of the message that Cuomo told his supporters tonight?
Yeah, he did certainly extend his appreciation for his supporters, but he also had some fighting words for the mayor-elect tonight, which we will get to in just a moment. But I do want to say that it's interesting to note that the three-time governor of New York has now really been denied the keys to City Hall. Andrew Cuomo was really hoping to resurrect his political career after resigning in 2021 after allegations of sexual harassment, and he was hoping to do so in this race, but it got off to a rocky start. He lost in the primary to Zohran Mamdani, who was really a relative unknown, a Democratic assemblyman at the time. And Mamdani ran on one issue, affordability, through and through, and Cuomo needed a much stronger campaign to match the Mamdani momentum that he had throughout. And Cuomo, of course, ran as an independent after losing in the primary. He needed a message that resonated with voters, and his message was really all over the place. It was about adding more police officers, about adding affordable housing, but also touting his own experience, and then also going down the road of socialism and how that would be bad for New York City. And that is what he spoke about tonight during his concession speech. Take a listen.
This campaign was the right fight to wage. And I am proud of what we did and what we did together. This campaign was to contest the philosophies that are shaping the Democratic Party, the future of this city, and the future of this country.
He even said that he thought that New York is going down a dangerous road. So certainly that is a sign of warning to Mr. Mamdani, who is now the mayor-elect. Certainly this election may have been much more about not the issues, but the future of the Democratic Party. Of course, Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist. So the night has really ended here, very different than what NJ Burkett is seeing over at the Mamdani headquarters. But again, Cuomo is not going to be in City Hall, which is where he was hoping to be for the next 4 years.
All right, Lauren Glassberg with the Cuomo camp tonight. Lauren, thank you. By the way, as soon as Zohran Mamdani takes to the podium and begins to give his acceptance speech, we'll play it for you right here live.
You know, we were also talking about Curtis Sliwa. You know, many people think that he spoiled Andrew Cuomo's chances for becoming the mayor of New York City, but even tonight, Sliwa says not so. Let's go to Eyewitness News reporter Stefan Kim, who is live on the Upper West Side, where Sliwa spoke earlier tonight, and it looks like everyone is gone behind you.
Actually, the room is pretty full here because it is a jubilant mood if there's any more proof that this was not about winning tonight. And to those who would call Curtis Sliwa a spoiler, Curtis Sliwa would say it was not his job to fix the Democratic Party's problems and to not assume that if he had dropped out of this race, that all of his votes would automatically transfer to Andrew Cuomo, and that it was up to Andrew Cuomo to win Sliwa supporters. He also had this message for the mayor-elect tonight.
Let me warn our new leader. If you try to implement socialism, if you try to render our police weak and impotent, if you forsake the people's public safety, we're not only organizing, but we are mobilizing, and we will become the mayor-elect and his supporters' worst enemies, worst nightmare.
Now, Sliwa also addressed the intense pressure on him to drop out of this race, notably when he mentioned those who encouraged people to vote for Andrew Cuomo. There were boos. Notably, there were also Donald Trump supporters in this room. Certainly an odd dynamic. Reporting live on the Upper West Side, Safan Kim, Channel 7. Eyewitness News.
At least that little girl behind him is having a good night. She certainly was enjoying staying up late, no doubt.
Well, now we want to go to the race for governor of New Jersey. It was a hotly contested and neck to the finish line.
But Democrat Mikie Sherrill handily defeating Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli.
Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Johnson is in East Brunswick, where supporters of Governor-elect Sherrill are celebrating. I'm sure they're going to have a late night tonight. Anthony.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, after Mikie Sherrill spoke to the crowd about 1 hour ago, many people started to file out of the door. You can see behind me, there's still a few folks here still celebrating a big victory. We really have to talk about the fact that her numbers came in much bigger than anybody had anticipated. I don't think any of the polls predicted that she would win by this kind of a margin. There's certainly going to be a lot of post-mortem about how big this victory was, but everybody in here was ecstatic. The numbers started coming in early. Right after 8 o'clock, she took the lead. She held on to the lead throughout the entire night and all the way through. These fans, these folks in here, supporters of Mikie Sherrill they were just waiting and counting, trailing the moment when it was official. And when they made the announcement that she had won the race, the projected announcement around 9:30 that she had won the race, you could just hear the crowd swell up. People just started rushing into the room. It was quite a night here for Mikie Sherrill. She spoke to this audience over an hour ago. Just listen to some of the things that she told them and thanking everybody that came out and supported her.
This was a tough fight, and this is a tough state. But I know you, New Jersey, and I love you. I've fought for you. I've spoken with thousands of you over this last year. I know your struggles. I know your hopes. I know your dreams. So serving you is worth any tough fight I have to take on, and I am incredibly honored to be your next governor. Leadership means carrying the weight of other people's hopes, standing firm when it's easier to bend.
So liberty and prosperity were the themes of everything that she was talking about. She wants to make the state more prosperous for everybody because affordability was such a big part of this campaign, plus the economy. Like I said, many people have now started to file out the room. The hard work probably starts tomorrow morning when she'll start putting her team together, because she will officially take office January 20th of next year. That'll make her the 57th governor of the state of New Jersey. She'll be the first female Democratic governor here in the state. She was once again very pleased with the results tonight. Once again, she won by a very big margin. And for a lot of people here in the state that were predicting this would be a close race, I think that came as a big surprise. Back to you guys in the studio.
Okay, Anthony, thank you. And she also broke another record. No political party has won a third term for the New Jersey governor's race until now.
Jack Ciattarelli was hoping it would be different. This is his third run at the New Jersey State House, but tonight, of course, again, he has fallen short.
Eyewitness News reporter Tony Yates is in Bridgewater with what's happening there. Is anyone there anymore?
There are still a few stragglers here in the room, Sade. I can tell you guys, you know, when this race was finally called, Jack Ciattarelli came downstairs with his family. He walked into this ballroom with thunderous applause, just everybody thanking him for his effort. But when he got to the podium, when they got to the stage, this room fell dead silent. I mean, you could hear the disappointment, the sadness, because they were really hoping that he would come out on top. He thanked his parents for raising him and his 3 siblings and giving them everything they needed by working hard. He says he hopes that the Sherrill campaign heard his campaign and heard from his supporters about what they think is needed to make New Jersey a better state. He thanked his team. He said he was proud of his effort. Here's more from his speech tonight.
Even though we were not successful tonight, it does not mean we were not successful in talking about the issues that matter. I'm more passionate than ever that these are the issues that need to be solved. Because if they're not, I fear for the future of New Jersey.
Scared to death. We won't have a state anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be like a communist Cuba now.
Time to go back to the table and strategize. You got to have a plan.
We thought Jack had it. He was a great candidate. He was what New Jersey needed. A lot of people in the room are trying to figure out what state they're going to move to.
Well, Ciattarelli said, quote, "We fight for another day." He says he's a Jersey boy. He is not going to Florida, and he will keep his hand in the politics of New Jersey to make it a better state. We're live here in Bridgewater, New Jersey. Tony Yates, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Back to you guys.
Okay, Tony, thank you. Well, history tonight in Virginia. Voters elected their first woman governor.
And Californians are also deciding on whether to redraw congressional district lines. Eyewitness News anchor Bill Ritter here now following all those developments for us. Bill?
Big deals to be sure, guys. Widely considered an off year for elections, it has been nothing but bad for a handful of states that are not in our area. In California, where polls closed about 15 minutes ago at 8 o'clock in the evening on the West Coast, one of the most influential items on the ballot there, the so-called Proposition 50, which will determine whether the state adopts new congressional maps. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom pushing that plan, which could flip as many as 5 districts in the state to now favor Democrats. The ramifications are huge, obviously. Again, polls close at 8 o'clock Wednesday. I'm sorry, West Coast time, not Wednesday, 15 minutes ago. We'll get more on that in just a second. But you guys, big news.
That's right. We want to go to Zohran Mamdani, where he is expected to speak. He has actually just taken the stage, now will become the mayor of New York City, the first Muslim mayor. He will be overlooking a $115 billion budget. And it is just an astonishing win.
And you can just hear the applause from all the people that were packed in that room waiting for this moment. He now, as you mentioned, becomes the 111th mayor of the biggest city in this country with a huge task ahead. Let's hear what he says.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refused to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an 1199 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall, who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now. This victory is for all of them, and it's for all of you. The more than 100,000 volunteers who built this campaign into an unstoppable force. Because of you, we will make this city one that working people can love and live in again. With every door knocked, every petition signature earned, and every hard-earned conversation, you eroded the cynicism that has come to define our politics. Now, I know that I have asked for much from you over this last year. Time and again, you have answered my calls. But I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did, and who took an electoral project and turned it into so much more, I will never be able to express the depth of my gratitude. You can sleep now. To my parents, Mama and Baba, you have made me into the man I am today. I am so proud to be your son. And to my incredible wife, Rama, Hayati, there is no one I would rather have by my side in this moment and in every moment. To every New Yorker, whether you voted for me, for one of my opponents, or felt too disappointed by politics to vote at all, thank you for the opportunity to prove myself worthy of your trust. I will wake each morning with a singular purpose: to make this city better for you than it was the day before. There are many who thought this day would never come, who feared that we would be condemned only to a future of less, with every election consigning us simply to more of the same. And there are others who see politics today as too cruel for the flame of hope to still burn. New York, we have answered those fears. Tonight we have spoken in a clear voice. Hope is alive. Hope is a decision that tens of thousands of New Yorkers made day after day, volunteer shift after volunteer shift, despite attack ad after attack ad. More than 1 million of us stood in our churches, in gymnasiums, in community centers, as we filled in the ledger of democracy. And while we cast our ballots alone, we chose hope together. Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible. And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt. Central to that vision will be the most ambitious agenda to tackle the cost of living crisis that this city has seen since the days of Fiorella LaGuardia. An agenda that will freeze the rents for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Make buses fast and free. and deliver universal child care across our city. Years from now, may our only regret be that this day took so long to come. This new age will be one of relentless improvement. We will hire thousands more teachers. We will cut waste from a bloated bureaucracy. We will work tirelessly to make lights shine again in the hallways of NYCHA developments where they have long flickered. Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with police officers to reduce crime and create a department of community safety that tackles the mental health crisis and homelessness crises head on. Excellence will become the expectation across government, not the exception. In this new age we make for ourselves, we will refuse to allow those who traffic in division and hate to pit us against one another. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election. This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone. Now, I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, the billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour. They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system. We refuse to let them dictate the rules of the game anymore. They can play by the same rules as the rest of us. Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, It is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall in 58 days, expectations will be high. We will meet them. A great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And yet, if tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great. Our greatness will be anything but abstract. It will be felt by every rent-stabilized tenant who wakes up on the first of every month, knowing the amount they're going to pay hasn't soared since the month before. It will be felt by each grandparent who can afford to stay in the home they have worked for, and whose grandchildren live nearby because the cost of childcare didn't send them to Long Island. It will be felt by the single mother who is safe on her commute and whose bus runs fast enough that she doesn't have to rush school drop-off to make it to work on time. And it will be felt when New Yorkers open their newspapers in the morning and read headlines of success, not scandal. Most of all, it will be felt by each New Yorker when the city they love finally loves them back. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... Let the words we've spoken together, the dreams we've dreamt together, become the agenda we deliver together. New York, this power, it's yours. This city belongs to you. Thank you.
You were just listening to the next mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old Democratic socialist, giving a fiery speech. He says, this city will remain a city of immigrants, empowered by immigrants, and led by an immigrant. He said, we have stepped out from the old, and now it is time to step into the new. He said, you dared to reach for something against all odds, and we have grasped it. The future is in our hands, and we have toppled a political dynasty.
Interesting, because it was a juxtaposition of him saying that he wanted to include many or all in certain parts of the speech, but also did not extend an olive branch to the person he defeated and who he had that contentious race against, Andrew Cuomo. In fact, at one point saying in so many words, let this be the night that I utter his name one final time, and good luck in the private sector. A source close to the campaign of Mr. Mamdani also saying
took a jab. He also took a jab at Trump,
Yes.
saying, he called out Trump saying, listen to this, turn up the volume. And Trump then replied, and so it begins. This was a fiery speech, you know, really hitting on all corners, speaking to the immigrants there. That has been central to also his campaign, the issue of affordability, fast and free buses, stabilizing rent, a rent freeze on more than 1 million rent-stabilized apartments, impacting more than 2 million people.
Let's bring in NJ Burkett, because he was in the room. He's been following the campaign. And so, NJ, you see the wave, you see the family walk off, and this is a moment that New Yorkers will mark in their minds, and certainly in history, as we now usher in the 111th mayor, a person that this city has not seen before. And he illustrated that in so many words and ways as he was giving his comments. But what did you make, and how did it play in the room as we now have what we expected to be this sort of match between President Trump, who has threatened to remove federal funding if tonight were to happen, and now we know it did?
Right. You know, Mike, what struck me, apart from the obvious, is that he used words like us and we over and over again. Us and we. Very rarely did he use the letter I. Did he say I? It's always us. It's we. We're in this together. We are going to climb this mountain together, and that New York City is going to work for working class people. You know, you were talking about the way he referred to Andrew Cuomo. He called him, you know, sort of indirectly a relic of the past. It was not a very kind speech to Andrew Cuomo, and, you know, in fairness, Cuomo was not very kind to Mamdani in the campaign as it played out. So I'm not sure I expected him to be terribly gracious with Cuomo after what he went through, especially with raising the issues of Islamophobia and all of that. So, look, it was a sensational speech, I think, sort of rhetorically, but he's energized his base. And you talk about how did it play in the room. I mean, people hung on every word. And it seemed to me that they cheered virtually every sentence. And there were some very, very powerful sentences in there. And you know, among them, of course, is when he said, Donald Trump, if you're listening, turn up the volume. And he knew exactly what would happen as soon as he said that. You'd hear a big cheer. So if Trump actually did reach and turn up the volume, he would have heard a lot of people cheering what he was saying in his speech. So a very, very effective speech rhetorically. He's got a lot of work ahead of him, but he's clearly ready. He clearly relishes this moment. And, there's no question that New York City is about to enter a new era. Mike, Sade?
Certainly, NJ. And as you're speaking about Trump, he also said to get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. I was also struck how he really tied into his grassroots efforts, the people who were there on the ground. He talked about the Yemeni bodega owners, the Senegalese taxi drivers, the Ethiopian aunties. And he just was really trying to bring home his whole issue that this is our city and that no matter what it takes, that we are going to meet the expectations of the future. Everything that I put out there about the fast and free buses, all of his other policy agendas, he says, I'm not afraid. I'm going to do it. Watch.
Yeah, and you notice how he didn't even have to finish the sentence because all of his supporters know exactly what the phrase is. They know the slogans. They can finish the sentences for him. And, he's obviously thrilled with the connection that he made with his supporters. This is, I've covered the city a long time, over 3 decades. And I have to say, I don't think I've ever heard a speech quite like this. He's appealing directly to people who have felt disenfranchised, that government did not work for them, does not work for them, and he's essentially saying that he's the guy who can make it happen. Look, there's a lot ahead of him. He's got a lot that he needs to do if he's going to follow up on his affordability agenda, but he's off to a powerful start, no question about it.
He certainly is, and New York City is home to 900,000 Muslims. I'm sure this is a special night for them and certainly a new level of visibility. NJ, thank you so much. We appreciate it. So tonight, he celebrates.
He does. Zohran Mamdani, the 111th mayor of New York City. Before we say goodnight, let's check in with Lee Goldberg and the forecast tonight. I know you've been watching all of this play out, and this is your moment.
No, it's been riveting to watch from the Weather Center. Incredible coverage, and of course, more to come. The weather, of course, did not hurt the turnout today, and it's still calm tonight. There's the Empire in Election Day colors. We're at 53 degrees. The wind is fairly light, but tomorrow we want to make sure you're weather aware that we have big-time gusts coming in later in the day, but especially tomorrow evening where we could have some damaging winds possible. So, it's milder for a moment tomorrow. It's pretty comfortable after a cool start. We're in the 60s, but then those damaging winds, you'll start to notice the breeze building in the afternoon, and then once we get into the evening hours, they really kick in ahead of a cold front. There could also be a gusty shower tomorrow evening, even an isolated rumble of thunder to the north. Get that supermoon visible later at night as we clear out. There's another shower chance Friday night into Saturday morning. That will not ruin your Saturday. In fact, it looks like we're going to dry out and have actually bumped temperatures up for your Saturday afternoon. Sunday is trending the wetter half of the weekend. Following that front, a December preview in early next week. So here's the futurecast, and we start out with temperatures tomorrow morning that will be in the 30s. It will be chilly in the suburbs, 40s in the city, island down the shore as well. At that point, some high clouds are spilling in, might make for a pretty sunrise, but harmless. Then it's a mixture of sunshine and clouds, leaning toward clouds later in the day, especially the farther north and west you are. But with a good southwest breeze building, temperatures will respond. We should be in the low, even middle 60s, maybe even some upper 60s interior New Jersey. With some of the clouds spilling into the Hudson Valley, you're probably closer to 60. During the day, probably seeing some gusts 25, 30 miles an hour. Here come the showers during the early evening hours, and I think by the time we get to about 8 or 9 o'clock, we've got showers, an isolated thunder shower. This one coming right down to the I-95 corridor in the 9 o'clock hour. A gusty shower should be off the east end of the island by about this time tomorrow night. By Thursday morning, we've got 40s and sunshine, and that's just a blustery day, but temperatures will drop about 10 to 15 degrees from our highs tomorrow, only in the low and middle 50s despite a fair amount of sunshine. Let's look at how the wind evolves. First of all, by tomorrow afternoon, we're already seeing some gusts that could go north of 30 miles an hour, but it's the evening hours we have to be really careful. We don't want you to get caught by surprise, especially latter part of that evening commute as the gusts start to go north of 35, 40 miles an hour. Maybe some gusts go north of 50 miles an hour, so potentially potentially some downed trees, power lines, power outages not out of the question, especially north of New York City. That's where we have a high wind watch. By the time you see Brittany in a few hours, we'll see if this is advisories or warnings. Definitely to the north, a better chance of the 60-mile-per-hour gusts. Not only that, but a couple of these showers could actually have a rumble of thunder, especially from the I-84 corridor and then points north. After that, we get rid of that. The winds quiet down on Friday. It's mostly cloudy. There'll be a shower at night into Saturday morning, but the afternoon we're in a sweet spot where we dry out. By Sunday, showers return to the forecast, and behind it, see all that snow up there? That's some cold air into early next week. 45 degrees, 7 in the morning, sunshine and high clouds, 30s off to the north and west, up to 65 tomorrow afternoon. A cloudy finish, a windy afternoon, an AccuWeather alert tomorrow night for the gusty, potentially damaging winds and some late night clearing. Here's your 7-day. After the alert early on Thursday, we'll brighten up. It's just blustery. Some late night rain on Friday into early Saturday morning. Best part of the weekend, Saturday afternoon. Showers return Sunday, and as we go into Veterans Day, it's a December preview. We'll have more weather in the morning. Sade and Mike, back to you for now.
Okay, Lee, thank you.
And that wraps up our coverage of the New York City mayoral race. A stunning political upset tonight. Zohran Mamdani will now become the 111th mayor of New York City, the first Muslim mayor, the first South Asian, and just an incredible, incredible night.
History made tonight. Other key races we are following all night. You'll have a recap on Eyewitness News this morning tomorrow. We now join Jimmy Kimmel, which you did not miss anything.
Not one bit of it.
And that's coming up next.
Good night.